Chapter 1200. Sima Hui had been locked up in the cold palace and was not in good spirits. After recuperating for a long time, her complexion had improved. Hearing that her daughter was coming, Sima Hui immediately began to dress up and instruct the servants to do this and that. When she finally heard that Prince Rong had arrived, Sima Hui rushed out. Shi Shang and Sima Yang were talking when Sima Hui came out. Both of them looked at her. Even though Sima Hui was old, she still looked good. After carefully dressing up, she looked even more radiant. However, her eyes had lost their color and were filled with sadness. Only when she saw Shi Shang did the sadness in her eyes gradually disappear. What happened to your forehead? Why is it swollen? Who hit you? Sima Hui asked anxiously when she saw the red swelling on Shi Shang's forehead. Shi Shang glanced at Qi Yuan, who was standing beside him. The latter's gaze was lowered and his hands were clasped in front of his chest. Shi Shang smiled. "Mother, I'm fine. I just accidentally bumped into it." Sima Hui was relieved. "How could you be so careless? Go in quickly. Mother will apply medicine for you. It won't look good if there's a scar. Sister, I'll go to the palace to find father first. You and His Highness can have a good chat. Father and I will come back for dinner tonight." Sima Yang was very perceptive. "Okay, go ahead." Sima Hui only had eyes for Shi Shang. How could she look at anyone else? She didn't even look at the people standing beside Shi Shang. Sima Yang glanced at Qi Yuan. "Young Master Qi, shall I arrange for someone to show you around the residence?" Qi Yuan didn't respond and kept his head lowered. Shi Shang said, "Uncle, he can just follow me." Sima Yang was a little worried. This was the emperor of Qi Yao. Sima Hui's heart was filled with her own baby. She didn't even listen to what Sima Yang and Shi Shang were saying. She pulled him inside. Sima Hui brought Shi Shang into the room and closed the door in one smooth motion. Qi Yuan was locked outside. He stared at the closed door. For a moment, his expression was ruthless. His body emitted a strong murderous aura, but it disappeared in an instant. He turned to look at shadow guards A, B, C, and D not far away. He then looked at the height of the courtyard. Could he climb over it? Sima Hui and Shi Shang only talked about their daily lives and even forced her to change her clothes. It was not until dinner time that Shi Shang finally saw Qi Yuan. "Why didn't you run away?" Shi Shang walked to his side and followed his line of sight. "There was a pond there." Qi Yuan responded with a cold snort. How could he run? Behind him were hidden guards, and all around him were high walls. He did it on purpose. "Your Highness, it's time to eat," a servant shouted from afar. Shi Shang looked at Qi Yuan. "Let's go." Qi Yuan didn't move. He didn't want to eat with those people. His hand was suddenly grabbed by someone, and a soft voice sounded in his ear. "You eat alone." Qi Yuan was stunned for a moment. When he came back to his senses, he realized that he had actually left with someone. Her hand was a little cold. It was very small and soft, not like a man's hand at all. She held on to him with no intention of letting go. Qi Yuan tried to struggle, but failed. At this time, they had already entered a crowd. Qi Yuan's dragon robe was already eye-catching, and now that he was being held by Shi Shang, it was even more eye-catching. "I heard that he is the emperor of Qi Yao. Why is your Highness holding hands with him? Your Highness doesn't like men, does he? It can't be. But your Highness has never had a woman by his side. For other princes, even if they didn't have a first wife, they would have a concubine or a concubine." The servants were whispering, so their words didn't reach Qi Yuan's ears. However, he could see the expressions on their faces. He lowered his voice. "Let go of me." Shi Shang loosened his grip, but Qi Yuan immediately pulled his hand back. "Prince Rong, please show some respect." Shi Shang looked at him with a faint smile. Qi Yuan felt a little uncomfortable under her gaze. He averted his gaze and responded with indifference. Qi Yuan was arranged to be in a separate room. There was only a door between him and the hall outside, so he could hear the sounds outside. Qi Yuan was extremely irritated. He pushed away the bowl in front of him. Shadow Guard standing next to him immediately tensed up. Was he going to chop someone up again? It wasn't that Shadow Guard was panicking. It was just that the Emperor had such a bad temper. However, Qi Yuan only sat there without making a sound. He didn't even flip the table. He lowered his head and stared at his own hand. There seemed to be a slimy feeling on his hand. In the next moment, he covered his hand with his sleeve with an ugly expression. What was he thinking? But he couldn't control himself. I want to wash my hands. Qi Yuan suddenly spoke. His voice seemed to be flustered and exasperated. Shadow Guard was dumbfounded, but he quickly went to fetch water. Qi Yuan repeatedly washed his hands several times, as if doing so would make him feel better. Shadow Guard looked at Qi Yuan's strange behavior and felt apprehensive. Should he go out and talk to His Highness? After dinner, Shishang bid farewell to the Sima family. Sima Hui had already confirmed that this was her Ji. Sima Yang and Lord Sima also breathed a sigh of relief. Although there were some things that couldn't be explained clearly, as long as it was Prince Rong, it was fine. At least she didn't have any intention of harming them. Sima Yang originally wanted to send Shishang and the others off, but Shishang refused. On the way back, Qi Yuan's expression was unsightly. When they arrived at Pure Flower's palace, Qi Yuan quickly got off the carriage. After taking 2 steps, he paused and asked in an awkward voice, "Is your forehead all right?" Shishang touched his forehead where the medicine had been applied. "Are you worried about this, Prince? Who cares about you?" Qi Yuan was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. He quickly denied it, then angrily walked inside. Shishang quickly caught up with him and grabbed his hand again. "Prince Rong." Qi Yuan completely exploded. He was addicted to holding his hand. "What?" Shishang moved closer to him. "You won't get pregnant if you give this prince a poo. Why are you so nervous? Did you find out that you like this prince?" "Nonsense. Why would I like a man? Absolutely not. If you don't give this prince a poo, then it proves that you like this prince. It's not good to deceive yourself. If you like me, then say it out loud. This prince won't laugh at you." Qi Yuan was speechless. How could there be such a shameless person? "Take a look at your masterpiece." Shishang tilted his head, revealing the red and swollen forehead. He continued, "As compensation, shouldn't you give this prince a hand to comfort his wounded heart?" Although her forehead had been applied with medicine, it was only ordinary medicine. Thus, it still looked red and swollen. When they were in the carriage, he reached out to give her a push. Who knew that the carriage would start moving again, causing her to bump into the corner of the table. Qi Yuan knew that he was in the wrong, so he angrily glared at her. "From here to the room." He meant that she could take his hand from here to the room. Shishang didn't have any objections and entered Pure Flower's palace under the strange gazes of the palace maids and eunuchs. When they reached a garden, Shishang suddenly stopped and ordered the people behind him, "Bring 2 chairs over." Qi Yuan's eyes widened as he gnashed his teeth. "Prince Rong." Shishang tilted his head and smiled, his eyes curved like crescent moons. "You didn't say that we couldn't stop midway." Chapter 1201. A chair was quickly brought over. Qi Yuan couldn't beat Shishang in a fight, he couldn't outtalk him, and he couldn't attack him either. He was forced to sit down. Fortunately, Shishang didn't do anything out of line. He only held Qi Yuan's hand and looked up at the stars above. The courtyard was quiet. "Dan Ming is here to pick you up." Shishang's voice suddenly broke the silence, revealing the chill of the night. Qi Yuan's expression turned strange. "Why are you telling me this?" "To give you something to think about, so you won't commit suicide," Shishang answered. Qi Yuan was speechless. Did he look like someone who would commit suicide? "I won't go with him." Shishang suddenly turned his head. "Oh, you're still saying that you don't want to leave if you don't like this prince?" Qi Yuan glared at him. It has nothing to do with you. Shi Shang stopped joking. What did the Dan family do to you? Qi Yuan didn't want to talk about it. He turned his head away. What does it have to do with Prince Rong? Your business is my business. Qi Yuan's body seemed to stiffen. Then, he snorted coldly and didn't say anything. He didn't say anything at all. Very good. Qi Yuan didn't know when he had fallen asleep. His dream was filled with fire, and countless faces flashed in front of him. They were all cold and indifferent faces. He seemed to hear sorrowful singing from a distant place. It was very vague and he couldn't make out what it was singing. He was locked in a small cage. His body was shackled and he was very heavy. He couldn't breathe. The scene changed abruptly. Countless figures flashed past him. He couldn't see their faces. This wasn't his memory, but it was very familiar. Qi Yuan opened his eyes abruptly. He saw a magnified face in front of him. The warmth of her lips made him realize that he was being molested. His heart seemed to stop beating. Everything around him was still. Only the face in front of him remained. Perhaps sensing that he was awake, the person above him opened her eyes and pecked him gently. She propped herself up and put some distance between them. She lowered her eyes and looked into his eyes as if she wanted to see his soul. You had a nightmare. He heard her voice. Qi Yuan looked at her coldly. So? Shi Shang shrugged and got off him. It seems that you don't like the way I wake you up. Let's change it next time. Qi Yuan stood up from his chair with a sullen face. He tugged at his dragon robe, which was wrinkled by the Shi Shang, and left with a flick of his sleeves. After leaving Shi Shang's line of sight, Qi Yuan's body jerked. He leaned against the pillar beside him to catch his breath, and his body bent over slightly. So painful. His heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand. Every beat of his heart was accompanied by a piercing pain that spread throughout his body. Those strange memories kept flashing through his mind, but he couldn't see them clearly. Whose memory was that? Why did he feel so sad? Young Master Qi, are you all right? Dark God B's voice rang out from the darkness. Qi Yuan's eyes darkened. He lowered his head and fell silent for a few seconds. Then, he straightened his body and resumed his indifference. I'm fine. Dark Guard B didn't reply and watched Qi Yuan leave. He rubbed his chin. No, he had to talk to His Highness. Qi Yuan did not sleep the entire night. When he came out in the morning, his complexion was even worse than Ping Cheng's. The eunuchs serving him did not dare to approach him. After Qi Yuan finished his breakfast, he waited for Shi Shang to harass him. However, he waited until noon, but Shi Shang did not appear. Not only did Shi Shang not appear, even the shadow guards were nowhere to be seen. Qi Yuan opened the door and asked the eunuch outside, "Where is Prince Rong?" The eunuch didn't expect Qi Yuan to suddenly speak. He was stunned for a moment before replying, "His Highness." His Highness said that he would be back later. If young Master Qi misses His Highness, you can go to the Lingguang Temple outside the city. Who misses him? Shameless. Why would he go to the Lingguang Temple? Snatch someone. Qi Yuan narrowed his eyes and stared at the eunuch. The eunuch's hair stood on end. He felt like he was being stared at by a ferocious beast instead of a human. Bang! The door was slammed shut. The stagnant air in the room seemed to start flowing again. The eunuch was drenched in cold sweat as he patted his chest. He was scared to death. Sili Huala. The sound of things being smashed echoed in the room. The eunuch stepped back. It's fine if His Highness likes men. He even likes men with such bad tempers. His Highness also doesn't have a good temper. How could he endure it? Is this the power of love? The eunuch's mind was wandering when the door was suddenly pulled open. Prepare the carriage. The eunuch almost peed himself. Can it not be so sudden? You'll scare me to death if you scare me. The Lingguang Temple was a national temple. When Qi Yuan arrived, he found out that today was the day that Lord Sima came to pay his respects. This was also a custom. Before a new emperor ascended the throne, they had to pay their respects at the Lingguang temple. What did that eunuch say about snatching someone? If it were him in the palace, he would have been dragged out and beheaded long ago. Qi Yuan felt that as the emperor of Crimson Glorious Empire, it wasn't good for him to go up now. He had the carriage wait below. Looking at the crowd below the Lingguang temple, he didn't have any thoughts of running away. Now was the best time to do so. The shadow gods weren't present. The ones who sent him here were only a few eunuchs from Pure Flower's palace. With so many people, he could just create some chaos and escape. However, he didn't have any such thoughts at this time. Qi Yuan felt like he was sick. Returned to the palace. He ordered the people outside with a heavy expression. As soon as he finished speaking, the carriage's curtains were lifted. "Why didn't you wait for me?" The youth was dressed very formally. He had bright eyes and white teeth. He was charming, and a mischievous smile hung at the corner of his mouth. Qi Yuan looked away unnaturally. His heartbeat was a bit strange. Shi Shang sat next to him. "I'm so tired. That abbot just won't stop. I guessed that you'd be here soon, so I found an excuse to slip away." His tone was very natural. A strange light flashed through Qi Yuan's eyes. He said with a cold expression, "I was just passing by." Qi Yuan felt that something was wrong. "Did you make the eunuch say that?" "I just wanted to see if you would come." Shi Shang had an innocent expression. "I was going to take you with me this morning, but I was afraid that you would be too conflicted last night, so I wanted you to sleep a bit more." "Qi Yuan," Shi Shang leaned towards him. "Are you in love with me now?" "No." Qi Yuan flatly denied. Shi Shang smiled and didn't argue with him. He was probably still conflicted about whether or not he was gay. It was quite interesting to see his conflicted expression. Shi Shang didn't wait for the main group and had the carriage directly return to the city. Lingguang Temple was some distance away from the city. As they passed by a narrow mountain path, the carriage suddenly jolted and tilted to the side. Shi Shang's body suddenly fell toward Qi Yuan, and the two of them crashed into the wall of the carriage. Shi Shang wrapped his arms around Qi Yuan's waist and used his hands to support his body. The carriage stopped tilting, but it was still swaying like a seesaw. "Fuck, who told you to attack the carriage?" An angry shout came from outside. Chapter 1202. Since Dan Ming did not manage to get the person he wanted, he would be punished by Old Master Dan when he went back. He might as well pretend that he had been detained as well. That way he would not be punished. What if a fight breaks out? Dan Ming had said that if they dared to send troops, he would tell them to kill the hostages. After hearing such a reason, the Shadow Guards expressed that Qi Yao's general really knew how to play. He was merciless when it came to cheating his father. Dan Ming stayed in Beiliang for no reason. There was some progress in the relationship between Shi Shang and Qi Yuan. Qi Yuan was no longer so against her, but he would not take the initiative to do anything. Every time, it was Shi Shang who would forcefully molest him, and in the end, Qi Yuan would explode. But the next day, he would appear again and repeat the previous steps. When Lu Ziyan and Chu Luo returned, Lord Sima had already ascended the throne. "I've only been gone for a few months, and the changes are so great." Lu Ziyan looked at the era name on the city gate and sighed. Chu Luo's expression wasn't good as she led her men into the city. The city was very calm. It was impossible to tell that it had experienced such a huge commotion. Chu Luo walked towards the prince's residence. Lu Ziyan jogged after Chu Luo. "Prince, what should we do now?" Chu Luo pondered for a moment. "Let's wait and see." The new emperor did not remove him from his position as a king. Even though there was a change of dynasty, he was still the Luo king. At that time, I wanted to topple the Sima clan, who knew? Lu Ziyan looked in the direction of the imperial city, her gaze complicated. Not only did the Sima clan not fall, they even sat on the throne. The previous emperor had long had the intention to take care of the Sima clan. Back then, he was so close to taking down the Sima clan. If it wasn't for that transmigrator suddenly appearing and disrupting the situation, the current situation would be very different. Shi Shang didn't know that Chu Luo had returned to the palace. She only knew that he had returned when she saw him in the palace. The two parties met on the steps outside the throne room. Chu Luo was on the steps, and so was Shi Shang. He raised his head to look at the youth on the steps, an indescribable anger rising from the bottom of his heart. Prince Rong is truly capable. Shi Shang smiled and said, "It's just so." He wasn't trying to be humble at all. The Shi Shang's words made one lose the desire to continue speaking. Chu Luo snorted and followed the eunuch into the throne room. "Luo King, you must take care of yourself." Shi Shang's voice drifted over from behind. Chu Luo's body suddenly stopped. She turned around, and a complicated light shrouded Shi Shang in her eyes. The young man in front of him was still as leisurely as before. It was as if what he said just now was just following his heart. Chu Luo's mind was in a whirl. After a long time, she squeezed out a few words. "Thank you for your concern, Prince Rong." Shi Shang watched Chu Luo enter the throne room. She'd better find a chance to kill the male lead. Otherwise, with his male lead halo, she'd definitely be the #1 cannon fodder. He was determined not to die. Even cannon fodder had to have dreams. Shi Shang was no longer living in Pure Flower's palace and had moved back to his own residence. Before she could enter, Hidden Garda hurriedly ran over from another street. Without waiting for Shi Shang to ask, Secret Garda rattled on, "Your Highness, something happened." Young Master Qi insisted on chopping people on the street. "We couldn't stop him." Shi Shang. Why was he chopping people on the street? Shi Shang waved his hand. "Go, go, go. Let's see what this idiot is up to." When they arrived at the place Secret Garda mentioned, it was surrounded by people. "Prince Rong is here. Make way, make way. Those in front, make way." Secret Garda shouted, and the people in front took the initiative to make way. The girls in the crowd immediately became excited. "Prince Rong. Oh my God, it's Prince Rong. Ah, where's Prince Rong?" Shi Shang walked in amidst the girls' affectionate care. In the encirclement, Dan Ming was kneeling on the ground while Qi Yuan looked at him with a dark expression. The secret guards stood between the two of them, and the atmosphere was exceptionally strange. "Madam, help." When Dan Ming saw Shi Shang, it was as if he had seen his savior. Ignoring Qi Yuan's abuse of power, he ran to Shi Shang's side. Then, perhaps realizing that he had misspoken, he loudly covered it up. "Your Highness Prince Rong, if you didn't come, I would have gone to meet my ancestors." Shi Shang's mouth twitched. "What did you do?" "I didn't do anything. I only said a few words to His Majesty, and he suddenly wanted to chop me up. You know, His Majesty never cares about the occasion or place when he loses his temper." Dan Ming was very careful when he said this, afraid that Qi Yuan would hear him from next door. If it were Qi Yao, he would have been dragged down and beheaded long ago. His Majesty is so scary. Qi Yuan's temper really didn't care about the occasion or place. He flipped out on a whim, faster than flipping a book. Shi Shang walked to Qi Yuan's side and naturally held his hand. Qi Yuan shrank back, then held her hand back. His voice was full of biting cold murderous intent. "Help me chop him up." Shi Shang pointed at two of his secret guards. "You two, drag him down and chop him up." What fairness and justice! How could it be more important than his wife's happiness? Dan Ming was dumbstruck. What was going on? Why did he still want to be chopped up? He didn't want to be chopped up, okay? "Prince Rong, you're helping the tyrant." The secret guards had long found Dan Ming an eyesore. At this moment, they surrounded him. "We've offended General Dan. Men, protect me." Dan Ming got up from the ground and quickly rushed into the crowd, causing a group of people to fly and dogs to jump. The secret guards chased after Dan Ming, but the crowd didn't disperse at all. Seeing two big men holding hands should have been a strange feeling. However, It was a different story when two men with better than average looks were holding hands. That's why it was said that looks determined everything. This was a world dominated by looks. Prince Rong is so amazing, even the Emperor of Qi Yao was taken in as a pet boy. I wonder if the Rong estate is still lacking people. I'm willing to serve tea. What pet boy? Prince Rong said that young Master Qi will be the future princess consort of the Rong estate. When did he say that? The girls were confused. Last time, when young Master Qi was forced to confess. Woo, it's a pity that I'm not a man. Right now, everyone in the capital knew that the person Shi Shang doted on the most was the Emperor of Qi Yao. Naturally, there were those who supported and those who disagreed. Public morals are degenerating day by day. There really are all kinds of people. Two grown men pulling each other on the street. What a scandal, how shameful. Blah, blah, blah. Shi Shang ignored these people. There were millions of people in the world. She could block one person's mouth, but how could she block millions of people's mouths? They wouldn't lose anything if they said a word, and in the end, they had no choice but to listen to her. Shi Shang led Qi Yuan out of the encirclement and went to a nearby tea house. Shi Shang didn't let go of him and led him upstairs, saying, "Why are you still dressed like this when you're out?" Qi Yuan coldly snorted, "What do I wear if not the imperial robe?" Shi Shang suddenly leaned in close and smiled maliciously, "You don't have to wear it." Qi Yuan had been teased too many times, and immediately understood the meaning of her words. His expression became unnatural. Chapter 1203. After Jing Chen gave the money, the crowd gradually dispersed. Shi Shang was standing at the back of the crowd. Now that the crowd had dispersed, Jing Chen's bodyguard saw him at a glance. "Young master, it's Prince Rong." The bodyguard almost gnashed his teeth as he spoke. That time at the inn, it was this person who had been so deranged. Jing Chen followed the bodyguard's line of sight and happened to meet Shi Shang's gaze. If he was said to have a pure heart and few desires, then this young man in front of him was someone who ignored everything. He didn't put anything in his eyes, as if he was isolated from the 7 emotions and 6 desires. How could he have such a state of mind at such a young age? Jing Chen gathered his thoughts and nodded slightly. Prince Rong. It wasn't respectful, but it wasn't contemptuous either. No one could find fault with it. Shi Shang said with a faint smile, "Young Master Jing Chen, people's hearts are sinister. You have to be careful. People are inherently good. Prince Rong, you have to believe in these 4 words. People are fickle. Young Master Jing Chen, you have to believe in these 4 words." Shi Shang used a few different words to return Jing Chen's words. Jing Chen was puzzled. Why does Prince Rong resist the kindness of others? Shi Shang curled his lips. Because they have never shown me kindness. How does Prince Rong know if others have shown you kindness? Jing Chen could be considered to have seen countless people, but he didn't dare to judge whether a person was good or evil at a glance. When you have seen many people. Shi Shang paused. You will know that when the forest is big, there are all kinds of people. Jing Chen was speechless. His words don't make sense. Young Master Jing Chen, it's really you. I thought I was mistaken. Lu Zian ran over from the side, her face full of surprise. But when she saw Shi Shang from the corner of her eyes, her surprise turned into shock. Prince Rong, why are you here? Her tone was as if Shi Shang's presence here was a great sin. Shi Shang raised his chin. What does this prince's presence have to do with Miss Lu? Lu Zian didn't dare to go against Shi Shang right now, so she lowered her stance. Prince Rong, please don't misunderstand. I was just asking casually, I didn't mean anything else. Naturally, Lu Zian hated Shi Shang from the bottom of her heart. Back then, Shi Shang didn't give her any face at all and almost killed her. But now, in the entire glorious Crimson Empire, Prince Rong was the most respected person besides the new emperor. Moreover, she was the same as her, from a different world. Why would she offend her in front of so many people? The female lead suddenly showed weakness. Shi Shang didn't know what to do. Why didn't you attack me? If you don't diss me, how can I cause trouble? Shi Shang was a little bored if the female lead didn't stir up trouble. I'm leaving. There wasn't much to see between the female lead and the supporting male lead. Why don't we invite the male lead over to take a look? No, if there was nothing to see, wouldn't that be a waste of the male lead's time? Shi Shang was about to give up on the idea when he suddenly saw the two girls sneaking around. She tried her best to search through the original Chu Luo's memories and finally found a match. Chu Luo's admirer. It seemed to be the daughter of a high-ranking official. She was a supporting female lead who was quite good at causing trouble. Of course, her ending was also very tragic. The master and servant obviously saw Lu Ziyan and Jingchen. Damn, the supporting female lead was going to tear them apart. Shi Shang's enthusiasm for watching the show rebounded. The two girls followed Lu Ziyan and Jingchen. Shi Shang followed behind the two girls. She had used an invisibility talisman. Otherwise, the girls around her would have screamed. She had no choice. She was also a celebrity now. Lu Ziyan and Jingchen were chatting. The two of them first walked on the street for a while. Lu Ziyan had probably suggested eating, so the two of them went to a restaurant. The girl with exquisite makeup stared at the restaurant with an unfriendly expression and gritted her teeth. Lu Ziyan, this shameless woman. She's seducing the Luo king and getting so close to another man. Miss, don't be angry, the maidservant persuaded softly. How can I not be angry? The girl scolded. She was a good match for the Luo king, but it was that B*TCH Lu Ziyan who seduced the Luo king all day. The maidservant's eyes darted around and she leaned close to the girl's ear. Miss, Lu Ziyan is meeting a man in private. Why don't we? This isn't good, right? The girl hesitated and twisted the handkerchief in her hand into a ball. Miss, if this succeeds, Lu Ziyan won't have the chance to marry the Luo king. Then, won't the position of Princess Luo be yours? The girl was conflicted for a while. In the end, her ideal of marrying Chu Luo defeated her conscience. Go ahead and do it. Be careful. I'll invite the Luo king. The maidservant nodded and promised that no one would find out. Shi Shang, who was standing at the side, young ladies these days were really capable. Shi Shang thought about the plot. There seemed to be such a scene in the plot, but it wasn't described in detail. He only knew that in the end, Lu Ziyan was fine, but this girl's family suffered. It was obvious that the male lead had appeared and saved the female lead. Shi Shang thought for a while and went to the Luo palace before the girl did. Chu Luo didn't expect Shi Shang to come looking for her. She didn't know what was going on, but since he was already here, he couldn't possibly chase him out, right? Chu Luo didn't even bother with the pleasantries and went straight to the point. Prince Rong, what's the matter? Shi Shang sat in the main seat and supported his chin with his hand. He said calmly, nothing. I'm just here to see how the Luo king is doing. Chu Luo frowned. You don't have to worry about me, Prince Rong. I'm doing very well. Chu Luo held military power in her hands. Even the new emperor had to be wary. During the chaos, he hadn't been in the capital and had nothing to do with it. He was indeed doing well. Shi Shang smiled ambiguously. Is that so? Then, the atmosphere turned cold. Chu Luo looked at the young man drinking tea and frowned. Prince Rong, did you come to look for me to ask if I'm doing well? I'm here to drink tea. You don't mind, right? Chu Luo felt even more complicated. She didn't understand what he was trying to do. The two of them sat there. The people outside came to report a few times that someone was looking for him, but the Luo king ignored them. Right now, he only wanted to figure out why Prince Rong was here. Shi Shang drank 3 cups of tea. Calculating the time, it should be about time. Only then did he stand up and look at Chu Luo. He didn't hide the malice on his face. I believe the Luo king won't be having a good time soon. Seeing that you're not having a good time makes this prince happy. Chu Luo stood up and looked at him coldly. What do you mean, Prince Rong? A beauty has a date. You should hurry up and go, Prince Rong. There might be a good show to watch. Let's make things clear first. This prince is only stalling for time. I didn't do anything else. When the time comes, don't throw all the dirty water at me. Shi Shang's words were straightforward. If Chu Luo couldn't tell that there was something wrong with them, he wouldn't be the male lead. Chu Luo's mind raced. He suddenly turned around and left. After asking where the person who was looking for him was, he ran straight over. The host's posture of dismantling a couple is getting stranger and stranger. How dare you be so impudent when you're stalling for time? When the time comes, they'll hate you to death. Shi Shang said smugly, I like it when they know that I did it, but they can't do anything to me. When others did something bad, they wanted nothing more than to cover it up and not let anyone know. His host, on the other hand, wanted the whole world to know that it was I who did it. What can you do to me? She suddenly felt glad that those people were NPCs. Pooey. This wasn't a game. NPC my ass. Please vote. Jing Chen glanced at her and lowered his eyes. Minister Zhang's daughter. At that time, that lady had come with Chu Luo. When Chu Luo flared up, that lady had confessed. It was unknown where that maidservant had gotten the medicine from. It was colorless and odorless. She had originally planned to use it on Chu Luo. Who knew that she would meet Lu Ziyan and clean dust today? It came in handy. Lu Ziyan's medical skills were outstanding, but this medicine was colorless and odorless. She didn't notice it at all, so she fell for it. In the words of the Shi Shang, it was all a trap. No matter how powerful the female lead was, she would still fall for it. Minister Zhang's daughter had previously tried to trip Lu Ziyan up because of her relationship with Chu Luo, but Lu Ziyan didn't think much of it. She was a modern person. How could she lose to an ancient person? Who knew that she would suffer such a huge setback today? Who else knows about this? At that time, Lu Ziyan was in a daze. She only remembered that someone had come, but she really didn't know who it was. King Luo. King Rong. Clean dust slowly spat out two people. Lu Ziyan's pupils widened. The King Luo knew? How could that be? That made sense. That person from the Zhong family had put in so much effort. How could he not let the King Luo see it? Lu Ziyan lifted the blanket and got off the bed. She had to explain it to the King Luo. As soon as her feet touched the ground, she felt dizzy and her vision turned black. Clean dust immediately supported her. Miss Lu. Lu Ziyan leaned against clean dust and gripped his arm tightly. What's wrong with my body? She couldn't exert any strength. Clean dust carried her back to the bed and said hesitantly, Don't worry about the aftereffects after being with me. You'll be fine. Your body will only be weak for a few days, but after that, your body will benefit. Lu Ziyan looked at Clean Dust in confusion. Clean Dust didn't explain further. In their sect, they couldn't marry for the rest of their lives. This was because once they did that, their cultivation would regress and the woman's body would get better and better. After Shi Shang beat Chu Luo up, he returned to his residence. In the middle of the night, someone suddenly knocked on the door. Shi Shang got up from the bed in frustration. Why are you knocking? It's the middle of the night. Can't you let me sleep? Why? Who wants to rebel again? The servant outside the door was shocked by Shi Shang and knelt down. Your Highness, there's news from the city gate that young Master Qi's convoy is back. They want you to hurry over. Shi Shang. She pinched her thigh. This wasn't a dream. They had just left during the day. Why were they back at night? Prepare the horses. The city gates closed at sunset and wouldn't be opened easily. At this moment, Qi Yuan's convoy had suddenly returned. The people at the city gates didn't dare to open the gates without permission, so they could only invite Shi Shang over. Shi Shang ordered someone to open the city gates and rode to the convoy. Secret Guard A and B immediately went forward to report, Your Highness, young Master Qi suddenly turned back halfway. Please go and take a look. Young Master Qi doesn't seem to be in a good mood. Shi Shang glanced at the convoy. Dan Ming was gone. She jumped off her horse and walked towards the carriage. She got into the carriage and instructed the people outside, "Let's go back." It was very dark in the carriage. Shi Shang could only see a black shadow sitting in the corner. She kicked away the mess in the carriage and sat beside him. "What's wrong? Why are you throwing a tantrum?" Qi Yuan didn't say anything. He reached out to touch Shi Shang's hand and grabbed it tightly. He was so strong that Shi Shang felt like he was going to break his hand. "You can't bear to part with me?" There was silence and no response. "If you don't want me to leave, then I won't leave. When I'm done here, I'll accompany you back. How about it?" There was still no response. Shi Shang, was he a mute? Qi Yuan didn't say a word as the carriage traveled from the city gates to the Rong estate. He didn't move even when the carriage stopped. "Let's go," Shi Shang asked patiently. Shi Shang tried to persuade Qi Yuan, but Qi Yuan remained unmoved. Shi Shang was furious and roughly carried him out of the carriage. The people outside all lowered their heads and pretended not to see anything. Shi Shang kicked open the door, carried him into the room, and threw him on the bed. She pinched his chin and forced him to look at her. "What's wrong with you? Speak." Qi Yuan couldn't avoid her gaze. He could only look at her. He moved his chin, which was a little uncomfortable, and squeezed out 3 words. "I don't know." He said it very confidently. "Shi Shang." Chapter 12:05. When Shi Shang released him, Qi Yuan immediately pushed her away and sat up on the bed. "I don't know what's wrong with me. I just don't want to leave you," he said in a low voice. He said the last few words very softly, as if he was murmuring them to himself. Shi Shang half knelt on the bed and tilted her head to look at his back. Her lips parted slightly. "Then don't leave me. I can give you whatever you want." Familiar images flooded his mind. Many people seemed to have said this to him before. His intuition told him that they were all the same person. And that person was right in front of him. Qi Yuan got up and said with a trembling voice, "I'm going back to my room." Shi Shang pulled him and looked up slightly. "Sleep with me." Qi Yuan turned around. Before he could refuse, Shi Shang said, "I miss you." Qi Yuan struggled for a while. I'm not ready yet." Qi Yuan's mind went blank. How could 2 men do that kind of thing? As an emperor, he naturally knew about sex, but that was based on the relationship between a man and a woman. But now they were 2 men, okay? "Okay, I won't touch you when you're ready," Shi Shang promised seriously. Qi Yuan continued to struggle for a while but gave up in the end. "I want to take a bath." Shi Shang smiled and got off the bed. "Wait a moment. Are you hungry? Do you want to eat something?" Qi Yuan nodded absent-mindedly. Shi Shang left him in the room and went out to ask the servants to prepare hot water and food. The servants quickly brought the hot water. Seeing that Shi Shang had no intention of going out, Qi Yuan was a little embarrassed. "I want to take a bath." "Okay, I'll help you," Shi Shang said happily. Qi Yuan was speechless. "I meant for you to go out." Shi Shang refused to go out and insisted on washing Qi Yuan. She took off his clothes one by one until only his underwear was left. Qi Yuan grabbed Shi Shang's hand. "I'll do it myself." Then, without waiting for Shi Shang to react, he quickly took off his clothes and dived into the water. "Do you have to?" Shi Shang rolled her eyes. "You'll have to see it in the future anyway." Qi Yuan's face instantly turned red. "To be fair, I'll show you too." Shi Shang tugged at his belt and was about to take it off. "Prince Rong." Qi Yuan raised his voice slightly. The blush on his face made him look extremely adorable. "Ha ha ha, look at how scared you are." Shi Shang let go of her hand. "I won't tease you anymore. Hurry up and wash up. I'll go get your clothes." Shi Shang had prepared many clothes for Qi Yuan, but Qi Yuan liked to wear his dragon robe. He changed out of the dragon robe and washed it. He didn't go out for the whole day. He would only come out when the dragon robe was dry enough to wear. I should prepare a few more dragon robes in the future. She wondered if Grandpa would beat her to death. When the Shang came back with the clothes, he bumped into the servant who was delivering the clothes. Your Highness. Give it to me. Yes. The Shang came in with the gifts, and the servants who delivered the gifts looked at each other. Your Highness is so nice to young Master Qi. Young Master Qi is so lucky to have met our Highness. Even if he was a man, it was still enviable. Sure, let's go quickly. If His Highness hears that we are still outside, he will yell at us again. Qi Yuan put on the clothes brought by the Shang. They fit him very well. No one had taken his measurements before, so he really didn't know who did it for her. His hair was wet and stuck to his body. It was a little cold at night. Here, it's so late. Have some porridge. You can eat something better tomorrow. The Shang put the porridge on the table and pushed it towards him. Qi Yuan wasn't really hungry. His mind was a little confused just now. When she asked him if he was hungry, he said yes. Qi Yuan sat down and drank 2 mouthfuls of the porridge. The Shang went behind him and wiped his hair with a dry handkerchief. Her movements were gentle and practiced, as if she had done it many times before. He was a prince. How could he wipe someone else's hair? Have you done this to someone else before? Qi Yuan almost bit his tongue. How could he ask such a stupid question? That person definitely wasn't him. No, it's just you. The Shang's voice came from the top of his head. Her voice was a little different from usual. It was less clear and more gentle. Qi Yuan suddenly felt a little strange. Details that he didn't pay attention to before suddenly came to mind. He suddenly turned around and reached out to touch the Shang's chest. It was soft. The Shang, Qi Yuan, their posture was a little indescribable. Qi Yuan stared at the Shang. If we say that my hand slipped just now, would Prince Rong believe it? The Shang lowered her head, a faint smile rippling in her eyes. Is your Majesty satisfied with what you touched? Only then did Qi Yuan react. He hurriedly retracted his hand and looked at her coldly. You're a woman? I didn't say I was a man. The Shang supported herself with the table behind her and pulled Qi Yuan into her arms. Does your Majesty dislike me just because I'm a woman? The aura that Qi Yuan had gathered was instantly extinguished. No. Just a second ago, he was still thinking about how they were going to have sex. In the next second, she turned into a woman. Wasn't this a huge shock? Qi Yuan realized that he didn't really care about whether she was a man or a woman. As long as it was her, it was fine. Are you full? The corners of the Shang's mouth curled up slightly. Qi Yuan nodded. The Shang reached out and lifted his chin. Her gentle voice was like a vine that wrapped around his heart. Then let's start our night exercise. When Qi Yuan woke up the next day, he was the only one in bed. His clothes were strewn all over the floor, and the room was filled with a special smell. He lifted the blanket to take a look. Suddenly, he blushed as the memories of last night came flooding back. He hugged the blanket and sat for a while, waiting for the Shang to return. He didn't know why, but deep down, he felt that she would definitely return. She wouldn't let him stay in the room like this. Sure enough, the door was pushed open not long after. A slender youth walked in under the sunlight, a satisfied smile on his face. You're awake. The Shang picked up the clothes on the floor and threw them aside. Your body is too weak. You have to train more in the future. The blush that had just faded from Qi Yuan's face crept back up. He was a little angry. Prince Rong might be disappointed. This is all we can do. He was a little angry, but his face was still red. The Shang's heart was rippling. So cute. As expected, he still liked the shy Feng Ci after sleeping with him. So cute. The Shang couldn't hold back and pounced on him again. Why did you dress up as a man? Qi Yuan held the Shang in his arms. She would definitely look good in women's clothes. Qi Yuan felt proud that he was the most beautiful girl in the world. Isn't there only so much in a place like the palace? Fighting for favor, fighting for power, fighting for the throne. Qi Yuan grew up in the palace and naturally understood these things. He changed the topic naturally. Then does Prince Rong intend to marry into my Qi Yao as a man? Why can't you marry into my family? I'm a man. In the eyes of outsiders, I'm also a man. The Shi Shang leaned closer to Qi Yuan. Moreover, they all know that I dote on you. In the future, I want to take you as my consort. Qi Yuan was speechless. ## today's vote for longevity flowers #vote, vote, vote. Vote, 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 vote. Chapter 1206. As soon as Lu Ziyan recovered, she went to look for Chu Luo, but Chu Luo didn't want to see her. She lingered outside the Luo palace for a few days but didn't see anyone. As a responsible man, although Jingchen didn't follow Lu Ziyan all the time, he would come to pick her up every day. Rumble. The sound of thunder resounded through the sky. In the blink of an eye, bean-sized raindrops fell. Lu Ziyan stood in the rain and stared in the direction of the Luo palace. The Luo king won't see you. Go back. Jingchen's voice was a little fragmented by the sound of the rain. Lu Ziyan didn't move. Jingchen stood still for a moment before reaching out to pull Lu Ziyan. As soon as his hand touched Lu Ziyan, she pushed him away. Get lost. If it weren't for him, why would Chu Luo be unwilling to even see her? If it weren't for him, she wouldn't have become like this. Jingchen staggered from the push. The guard standing in the distance rushed forward and said angrily, "Young master, why do you care about her? This wasn't your fault to begin with. Miss Lu, please understand that our young master is also a victim." At that time, she was the one who suddenly appeared on the street and asked to treat the young master to a meal. The young master didn't even say anything, yet she still had the cheek to throw a tantrum at him. Jingchen shook his head at the guard and said good-naturedly, "Miss Lu, since things have come to this, get lost." Lu Ziyan pointed in a direction with a trace of hatred in her expression. "Get lost. I don't want to see you." Jingchen shook his head helplessly. In the end, he didn't say anything and left with his men. Compared to Lu Ziyan's confusing and complicated situation, Shi Shang's side was simply displaying their affection. The servants of Prince Rong's residence wished they could poke their eyes out. Every day, they saw their prince and the emperor of another country showing off their affection. At the same time, there were more rumors outside. However, this didn't stop Shi Shang from displaying their affection on a large scale and poisoning the eyes of the world. "Your Highness, young Master Qi, we're here." Shi Shang rubbed his eyes and sat up. He glanced at Qi Yuan before lifting the curtain and getting out of the carriage. She stretched out her hand and Qi Yuan helped her out of the carriage. Shi Shang naturally held his waist to stabilize his body. "I'm not that delicate." Qi Yuan was a little annoyed. Why did she always think of him as a weak person? "But I want to pamper you." Shi Shang answered in all seriousness. Qi Yuan was speechless. If he wanted to spoil her, so be it. In any case, he was already used to it. "Look, it's Prince Rong." As soon as the Shi Shang got out of the car, a young girl exclaimed in a low voice. Qi Yuan looked at those people impatiently and dragged the Shi Shang inside. Why should his woman be seen by others? If this was Red Planet, he would have been dragged out and beheaded long ago. Shi Shang chuckled. "Are you jealous?" "No." Qi Yuan coldly snorted. He wasn't jealous. "You won't lose anything if you admit it," Shi Shang teased. This brat was really arrogant. Qi Yuan continued to snort. The two of them were here for a meal because Qi Yuan said that he was tired of the food made by the prince's residence. To Shi Shang, as long as he was obedient, he would even get him the stars in the sky, let alone a meal. After entering the restaurant's private room, Qi Yuan sat beside Shi Shang and twirled his teacup. "When are you coming back to Red Planet with me?" Shi Shang raised his eyebrows. "Why? Is it urgent?" Qi Yuan's hand paused. his gaze returning to its usual indifference. If we don't go back soon, they'll probably rebel. Shi Shang narrowed his eyes and smiled. Then let them rebel. When we get back, I'll help you rebel. Qi Yuan glanced at him. After the previous rebellion, he didn't think that Shi Shang was joking. He knew that he had the ability to do so. Qi Yuan suddenly reached out and pinched Shi Shang's chin. He leaned in and kissed him for a moment before saying in a low voice, "I like you." "Why are you suddenly confessing?" Shi Shang glared at him. "I want you to know," Qi Yuan said confidently. Shi Shang looked at him with a faint smile. Qi Yuan had never seen such gentleness in his eyes before. It was a gentleness that was only shown to him. Knock knock. There was a knock on the door. Qi Yuan let go of Shi Shang and looked away unnaturally. The people serving the dishes came in one after another. Qi Yuan lowered his head and ate, ignoring Shi Shang. Shi Shang didn't move from her seat, merely looking at him thoughtfully. "Why are you looking at me?" Qi Yuan felt uncomfortable being stared at while eating by someone he liked. "You're good looking. Who else am I supposed to look at?" If she really looked at someone else, he would call for someone to chop off her head. "Qi Yuan." Crash. Qi Yuan frowned and looked at the wall beside him. The sound came from next door. The sound of footsteps could be heard outside. It was very messy. When the person ran to their door, he suddenly shouted in a sharp voice, "I said it's none of your business. Get lost." Shi Shang was naturally familiar with this voice. It was Lu Ziyan. The argument outside became louder and louder. Shi Shang opened the door and went out. Lu Ziyan and Jingchen had already arrived at the hall. The two of them kept pulling and tugging. "I have nothing to do with you. Can you not appear in front of me again?" Lu Ziyan was mentally and physically exhausted, and her voice was a little sorrowful. "Miss Lu, how can I not be responsible for what I did?" Jingchen was a stubborn person. "I don't need it. Don't you understand? Need. I want it." Lu Ziyan was practically gnashing her teeth as she said this. She really didn't need him to be responsible. "Prince, shall we go somewhere else?" A delicate voice sounded from outside the door. Lu Ziyan seemed to have sensed something and looked up abruptly. Chu Luo, whom she hadn't seen for many days, was standing outside the door. Beside him was a good-looking girl. Standing beside him, they looked like a golden couple. "Prince Luo," Lu Ziyan murmured and stared blankly at the person outside the door. In love, whoever compromised first would lose. Although this wasn't completely accurate, it applied to most people. In the plot, Chu Luo was the one who compromised first, and it was the plot that was messed up by Shi Shang. It was Lu Ziyan who saw her heart clearly first. Chu Luo glanced at Lu Ziyan and Jingchen's hands and turned to leave. The girl immediately followed. "Prince Luo." Lu Ziyan broke free from Jingchen and chased after him. It was another catfight. Of course, Shi Shang didn't see it. When he came out after serving Qi Yuan, he didn't even see a shadow. Shi Shang had heard this gossip from his servants. After being mocked by Chu Luo, Lu Ziyan fainted from anger. After Jingchen brought her away, it wasn't long before news spread that she was pregnant. She was pregnant before marriage. Such a huge piece of gossip spread throughout the streets and alleys in the blink of an eye. "Your Highness, whose child do you think it is?" the servant asked Shi Shang, who was squatting beside them, curiously. Shi Shang munched on melon seeds. "It's not mine anyway." "Your Highness, can we still chat? Lu Ziyan has always been targeting Your Highness. Now that she's suffering retribution, she deserves it." Shi Shang smiled but didn't say anything. "What retribution?" "I was the one who added fuel to the fire, okay?" Secret Guard A appeared out of nowhere. "Your Highness, young Master Qi is looking for you. Why are you squatting here? You're a prince. Can't you act like one? Why are you squatting with them and gossiping?" The corners of Shi Shang's mouth twitched. Why were secret guards so talkative now? Secret Guard A scolded the servants again. What are you looking at? Hurry up and do your work. The servants were very innocent. They had been chatting here just now and realized that their prince was squatting behind them. What could they do? Chapter 1207. Lu Ziyan was pregnant, and Jingchen came to propose marriage the next day. Surprisingly, Lu Ziyan did not object this time and agreed to Jingchen's request. Because she was pregnant, the wedding preparations were rushed. Shi Shang went to take a look. The scene was not grand, but it was thoughtful. Jingchen, the supporting male lead, was very good. After the wedding, Lu Ziyan's news stopped. Your Highness, it's not good. Secret guard rushed in. His voice could probably be heard by the entire palace. Who's not good? Shi Shang was speechless. She had shouted so loudly that people who didn't know better would think that she was the one who was not good. Hidden guard pointed in the direction of the city gate. Dan Ming has brought an army to declare war. He wants Her Highness to hand over young Master Qi. Qi Yao hasn't rebelled yet? Shi Shang asked subconsciously. Secret guard what's with your regretful tone? Qi Yao had the astute Prime Minister Su and the Dan family. Who would dare to rebel? Do you think everyone is as awesome as you? Just as Secret Guard finished his report, someone from the palace arrived. It was her cheap uncle, the current Crown Prince. Originally, the title of Crown Prince was supposed to be bestowed to Shi Shang, but Shi Shang was not interested, so the title fell to Sima Yong. Sima Yong was here to ask her what she should do. It was definitely impossible to fight Qi Yao. Qi Yao's military strength was much stronger than Northern Liang's. If they fought, only Northern Liang would be at a disadvantage. Most importantly, most of Northern Liang's soldiers were under Chu Luo's control. They still had to rely on her to lead the troops into battle. Sima Yang's intention was to return him first. If she really liked him, she would first regain her identity as a woman and then marry him in a political marriage. To be able to reach a peace treaty with Beiliang was the best for Beiliang and the people of the world. We agree with the Crown Prince, Qi Yuan said in all seriousness. Shut up. Shi Shang glared at him. Qi Yuan pursed his lips and didn't say anything else. Sima Yong was surprised. Since she was so obedient, it seemed like he didn't have to worry about her being bullied in the future. Although Shi Shang was a little reluctant, she finally agreed to return to her female identity and marry Qi Yao as a princess. Her hidden mission was not to marry Qi Yuan, but to fulfill the 100-year alliance between Beiliang and Qi Yao. Qi Yuan represented Red Radiance and signed a 100-year alliance with Northern Liang. Within 100 years, the two countries would not go to war. Qi Yuan sent someone to send a message to Dan Ming, asking him to prepare the betrothal gifts. When Dan Ming received the news, he was in a bad mood. He had been forced by the old master to ask for the bride, but he had failed to do so. Now, he had to pay the betrothal gifts. However, he had no choice but to give the betrothal gift. If he did not give it to His Majesty, he would not be able to get it back. How was this a betrothal gift? This was a ransom. He had already anticipated that the narration of His Majesty being recorded in the annals of history would definitely not be anything good. Dan Ming left the army at the border and hurried back to prepare the betrothal gifts. According to Qi Yuan's instructions, he had almost emptied the treasury of all the good things. The ministers of the imperial court were filled with grief and hatred, wishing they could immediately rebel in front of Qi Yuan. This back-and-forth delay took another few months. Shi Shang heard that Lu Ziyan's child was gone, and the culprit was Chu Luo's new lover. Chu Luo didn't say anything about this. She didn't protect her new lover or seek justice for Lu Ziyan. After Lu Ziyan lost her child, her intelligence suddenly returned and she punished the person who had caused her child's death. Lu Ziyan's actions touched Chu Luo's reverse scale. From then on, Chu Luo and her relationship became incompatible. Lu Ziyan felt that if Chu Luo hadn't indulged her, her child wouldn't have been gone. Although she resisted pure dust, the child was innocent. On the 8th day of the 7th month, the betrothal gifts kept entering the city gates, attracting the attention of the common people. The new emperor had already publicly announced Shi Shang's identity as a woman. Now that the old dynasty was gone, whether or not Shi Shang was a woman, he naturally wasn't guilty of deceiving the emperor. Many young ladies' hearts were broken. However, when they found out that Shi Shang was a girl, the rumors about the two of them in the imperial city disappeared. At the same time, the 7-star passion poison in Chu Luo's body acted up. Chu Luo lay on the bed, feeling a little dizzy. The people around her came and went. The room gradually quietened down, and there seemed to be someone standing beside her. Chu Luo turned her head and looked at the person standing beside her. Her vision was a little blurry. The corners of his mouth twitched, and his voice seemed to be stuck in his throat. After a while he said, "What are you doing here?" Lu Ziyan looked at him indifferently. "I can save you." "No need. I didn't say I wanted to save you." Lu Ziyan sneered. Back then, when her child had been miscarried, he had stood by the side and watched. He only needed to give the order and her child wouldn't have been gone. "Then why are you here?" Chu Luo's voice was hoarse. "Are you here to laugh at me? Now that you've seen enough, get lost." "Chu Luo, I'll wait for the moment you beg me." Lu Ziyan left the room after saying this. Lu Ziyan didn't wait for Chu Luo to beg her. What she waited for was for Chu Luo's men to capture her. Perhaps Chu Luo didn't know, or perhaps she did. Lu Ziyan didn't know. They asked Lu Ziyan to tell them the method to cure the 7-star passion poison. How would Lu Ziyan know that she was just lying to Chu Luo back then? She wanted him to experience the pain of having hope in his heart but despair in the end. Lu Ziyan didn't speak, so those people tortured her. In the end, Lu Ziyan was almost on her last breath. Lu Ziyan wondered why she had ended up like this. Everything had been going smoothly before, but ever since... Yes, that woman. Ever since she came, everything about her had become abnormal. "Ziyan, Ziyan, wake up." A familiar voice sounded in her ears. Lu Ziyan's slightly dazed consciousness gradually returned to her. She looked at the person in front of her and her pupils suddenly constricted. "What are you doing here?" "I'm here to save you. Don't be afraid." Qing Chen released the rope on her body. "I'll take you out now." Qing Chen picked her up and took her out of the dungeon. However, as soon as the two of them walked out of the dungeon, they were surrounded. "Young Master Qing Chen, we've been waiting for a long time." The leader looked at Qing Chen. Qing Chen didn't seem surprised. "I can go with you, but you have to let Ziyan go." "Sure." The man chuckled. "What are you talking about?" Lu Ziyan grabbed Qing Chen's collar and widened her eyes. "Why did you agree to them?" Qing Chen patted her lightly and looked at the man. "I want to send Ziyan away first." "Young Master Qing Chen, your request is a little difficult for me. Since I've agreed, I won't go back on my word. Send her to a safe place and I'll follow you." The man hesitated for a moment before finally nodding. "Then we'll do as young Master Qing Chen says. However, young Master Qing Chen, you have to understand that if you go back on your word, Miss Lu won't have a good ending either." Qing Chen was going to die. She didn't want to kill him. After all, his name was so nice. However, she thought that if the Shi Shang interfered, it wouldn't be in line with her character, so Qing Chen could go in peace. Chapter 1208. Jing Chen sent Lu Ziyan out of the imperial city. Someone was waiting for them outside. "What do you want?" Lu Ziyan's eyes were red. She grabbed Jing Chen's hand tightly. "What did you promise them?" "Nothing, just a small favor. Go with them first. I'll be back soon." Jing Chen touched Lu Ziyan's forehead and comforted her gently. "No." Lu Ziyan shook her head. How could they let her go so easily? "Didn't you say you would take good care of me?" "You can't go." Jing Chen showed a trace of helplessness. He slid his finger to the tip of Lu Ziyan's nose. "I'm sorry." Lu Ziyan smelled a very faint fragrance. She didn't have time to distinguish what it was before her consciousness began to fade. Jing Chen put her in the carriage and fed her a black pill. After making sure she swallowed it, he looked at the guard beside him. She won't remember anything when she wakes up. Let's go. Master. The guard looked sad and angry. She didn't treat you well. Why do you have to? I don't have much time left. There's nothing to worry about. Jing Chen looked into the distance. If you still treat me as your master, do as I say. Tears welled up in the guard's eyes. Finally, he gritted his teeth and drove the carriage away. The 6th day of the 8th month was a good time to get married. Shi Shang was wearing a fiery red wedding dress. He stood behind the main entrance of the imperial palace. Beside him was the wedding procession. Come back to see Imperial Mother more often. You have to take good care of yourself over there. Sima Hui tugged at Shi Shang. Her tears couldn't stop falling. Imperial Mother, he will take good care of me. He is the Emperor of Qi Yao. You have to take good care of yourself. Don't end up like Imperial Mother. Sima Hui's words were vague, but how could Shi Shang not understand? As the Emperor, Qi Yuan should have a harem of 3,000 beauties. Imperial Mother, don't worry. If he dares to have other women, I will chop him up. Sima Hui was stunned. This daughter was different from her. She wouldn't end up like her. Sima Hui's eyes showed a touch of relief. As long as she lived well, she would be happy. By the time Shi Shang and the Sima clan had finished speaking, Qi Yuan's wedding procession had also arrived. The palace gates slowly opened, and a fiery red figure gradually appeared. Qi Yuan sat on his horse and looked at the people coming out of the palace gates. The corners of his mouth slowly rose. He had said that she would look the best in women's clothing. 10 li of red dowry welcomed her with 100 years of alliance as an oath. The wedding procession left the imperial city. The fiery red procession meandered into the distance. This was destined to be recorded in the annals of history. After exiting the city gate, Shi Shang took off all the cumbersome things on his body. His neck was about to break. She changed into casual clothes and went horseback riding with Qi Yuan. Although this was against the rules, no one dared to refute Shi Shang's stare. They could only pretend that they did not see it. When they were about to reach the city, Shi Shang would go back and sit down. When they left the city, he would go out and ride a horse. When the team was about to reach the border, a carriage stopped by the roadside. Shi Shang remembered that the person sitting outside the carriage was Jing Chen's guard. Just as Shi Shang was wondering why his people were here, he saw the curtain of the carriage lift, revealing a familiar face. But that face was full of ignorance as she looked curiously at their convoy. Brother M.O., what are they doing? The guard glanced at the convoy and said coldly, They are a marriage procession. What's a marriage procession? The guard impatiently pulled the curtain down. Don't look around. Shi Shang was a little surprised. Did the female lead lose her memory? During the night's rest, Shi Shang asked Secret Guard A and found out that the Luo King had recovered. But Jing Chen was missing, and Lu Ziyan was nowhere to be found. Your Highness, we have to be careful of the Luo King. If you leave, I'm worried that His Majesty... This is not something I should be concerned about. Shi Shang glanced at Secret Guard A. She had helped them conquer the country. Was she going to help them defend it? No way. Secret Guard A had a slip of the tongue. I know my mistake. The next day, when they left the city, Shi Shang saw Lu Ziyan again. Shi Shang was sure that Lu Ziyan had lost her memory. All of her memories should have been gone. They seemed to be going to Red Planet as well. Sometimes, their convoy was in front, sometimes behind. When they were near the border, Shi Shang did not see them again. When the convoy reached the border, Dan Ming led the army to welcome them. Back in his own territory, Qi Yuan started beheading people at the slightest disagreement. Dan Ming came to Shi Shang all day long to complain. I will be beheaded by His Majesty sooner or later. Madam, can you persuade His Majesty to use a peaceful solution? Shi Shang flipped through his book. If he likes you, let him behead you. Why do you care about him? If he gets angry, why don't you go and pacify him? Dan Ming smiled ingratiatingly. Aren't you the only one who can suppress his majesty? Shi Shang glanced sideways and smirked. As long as he's happy. Dan Ming. How scary. One, his majesty was hard enough to please. Now there was another. How was he going to live? He did not know if it was too late to cut ties with the Dan family. Your Majesty. Your Majesty. Salutes sounded from behind. Dan Ming immediately moved away from the side of the carriage. If Qi Yuan saw him here, he would be dragged out and beheaded. Qi Yuan walked to the front of the carriage and his gaze landed on the book in Shi Shang's hand. His face darkened. He reached out and took the book away, flipped into the carriage, and waved his hand to lower the curtain. He pressed Shi Shang onto the soft couch at the back. Qi Yuan kissed her fiercely and said in a dangerous voice, "Didn't I tell you not to read those books? Who found those books for you?" Shi Shang panted. Dan Ming. Qi Yuan narrowed his eyes and stared at Shi Shang's tender red lips. He pressed his lips down again and their lips moved. The aura of the two gradually became heavy. Qi Yuan's hand reached under her clothes and traced her graceful curves. No. No. Shi Shang panted and pushed Qi Yuan away. There are people outside. Qi Yuan was irritated. He hugged Shi Shang's waist and did not want to let go. His voice was a little seductive. I want you. Shi Shang tidied up his messy clothes. As a man, you have to have self-control. Bear with it. I can't bear it. Qi Yuan felt wronged. Shi Shang, if you can't bear it, then do it yourself. Shi Shang pried his hand away and got out of the carriage. Damn it, if she continued to stay with him, she would not be able to bear it. What a torturous little vixen. Qi Yuan sat in the carriage and became even more irritated. He calmed down the heat in his body and shouted outside, "Men, call Dan Ming over for me." Dan Ming's head was not chopped off, but he was punished for no reason. What did he do? General Dan, it's been hard on you. Secret Guard A patted Dan Ming's shoulder sympathetically. Dan Ming glared at Secret Guard A. What do you know? Secret Guard A looked around and moved closer to him. Her Highness said that His Majesty punished you because you found those books for her. What the hell? Wasn't that you? General Dan, be careful with your words. If Her Highness hears you, you won't just be a scapegoat. Secret Guard A was smug. That was their Highness, of course they had to protect them. Dan Ming was furious. He just wanted to be a general quietly. Why was it so difficult? Chapter 1209. When the citizens of Crimson Star heard that His Majesty had married a princess from Bailiang, they were all dumbfounded. Bailiang had just changed its ruler. Where did the princess come from? Later, when they heard that it was the former Princess Rong, and that she was a girl, the citizens of the imperial city boiled over. The wanted Princess Rong was actually a girl? Then didn't she come to the imperial city with a plan? She even dared to scheme against His Majesty, as expected of the big shot who played the imperial guards like a fiddle. Everyone was waiting to see her, but when the entourage arrived at Crimson Star Imperial City, Qi Yuan skipped the complicated steps and directly brought her back to the palace. Any objections? Drag her out and behead her. Since then, Their Majesty was becoming more and more like a fatuous ruler. Not only did he behead people at the slightest disagreement, but those who dared to look at Shi Shang or talk about her risked being beheaded as well. After Qi Yuan's wedding, he seemed to be very busy. Shi Shang could only see him at night, and sometimes he would only come back after she had fallen asleep. In the imperial study, a eunuch respectfully reported, "Your Majesty, the Empress is here." The man above paused. "You don't have to report her arrival in the future." The eunuch was startled. Yes. This Empress was really favored by His Majesty. She could even enter the imperial study as she pleased. Shi Shang entered the study, bringing in a gust of cold wind. The study was very warm and had a faint fragrance. Qi Yuan put down his brush and looked up at her, waving at her. Shi Shang lifted her skirt and walked up the steps. Qi Yuan moved to the side to give her half the space and held her hand. Are you cold? No. She had spiritual energy in her body, so how could she be cold? Qi Yuan checked her body and made sure there was nothing wrong. Is the palace boring? He had been a little busy recently and didn't have much time to accompany her. Shi Shang propped up her chin. I miss you. Qi Yuan tilted his head and kissed her cheek. My beloved consort, stay here with me. No. Then it's settled. Qi Yuan's lips curved as he interrupted Shi Shang. Shi Shang. She came to tell him that she wanted to go out. Why did she end up accompanying him here? Qi Yuan hugged Shi Shang with one hand and pulled her into his embrace. Then, he began to review the memorials. Your Majesty. Shi Shang twisted his body. I want to go out. You can't go anywhere without me. What if she was kidnapped? My dear concubine, don't move. You don't want to be here. Qi Yuan's last words were full of meaning. Isn't there still Dan Ming? I'll go out with him. Dan Ming was fun to trick. No way. Qi Yuan's face darkened as he refused. He would kill Dan Ming sooner or later. Shi Shang. Ever since he returned to his own territory, Qi Yuan's aura had been flourishing day by day. It was as if he had not been taught a lesson for 3 days. When I indulge you these days, you want to turn over and sing, right? Seeing him close the memorial, Shi Shang pinched his hand and slipped out of his arms. She walked to the side of the table and glared at him. Eyes out. If you dare to say no, you'll sleep outside tonight. Qi Yuan, what was so good about sleeping outside? He wasn't there. Qi Yuan threw the brush aside and stood up from the dragon throne. His aura was imposing. I'll go with you. It's over. Your ministers are going to impeach me again. She had been impeached several times recently. Qi Yuan was the one who did it, but in the end, she was the one who took the blame. Shi Shang was also in despair. Just kill him. Qi Yuan did not care. Where do you want to go? Shi Shang narrowed his eyes. It snowed a few days ago. Let's go see the snow. Okay. Because of Qiao's geographical location, it always snowed first in the imperial city. At this time, the entire imperial city was covered in snow. Qi Yuan wanted to leave the palace, so Dan Ming had to accompany him. He was very unwilling to come. Although he did not have a wife to hug in the middle of winter, at least he had a heater at home. Once they were out, it was a world of ice and snow. It was unbearably cold. What is the Empress up to again? Dan Ming and secret guards A and B rode their horses and followed behind the carriage in the snow. It's so cold. Secret guard glanced at Dan Ming. General Dan, you're a martial artist. How can you be so afraid of the cold? I'm also human. Why can't I be afraid of the cold? The wind was blowing so hard that he was about to become retarded. Secret guard A and B shook their heads at the same time and rode their horses to the front. Before they left, they said to Dan Ming, General Dan, don't freeze your IQ. Pay attention to your surroundings. Dan Ming stared at their backs, baffled. After a while, his stiff mind finally snapped back to reality as the question Shi Shang had asked him a few days ago flashed through his mind. He caught up with secret guards A and B. Your Highness isn't trying to lure the snake out of its hole, right? Secret guard A looked serious. No, Our Highness said that we're just out to stroll in the snow. Stroll in the blood, of course. When they went up the mountain, they were ambushed. Blood seeped into the snow like blooming red plum blossoms. It was so red that it was dazzling. The ambushers obviously did not expect the other party to be prepared. They were all eliminated without any resistance. A few of them were even captured alive. Qi Yuan lifted the curtain and took a look. I thought you wanted to come out with me, but it turns out that you're here to deal with these people. It's just in passing. Shi Shang waved his hand. Qi Yuan lowered the curtain and said coldly, I can deal with them. You don't have to do it. You're thinking too much. Shi Shang rolled his eyes. They're reaching out to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be bothered to do it. These people were the ones that Qi Yuan had been dealing with recently. Perhaps they knew that Shi Shang was Qi Yuan's favorite, so they were reaching out to her. Since they were already reaching out, it would be disrespectful if he did not show them some respect. He had to cut them down. Afraid that he would hurt Qi Yuan, Shi Shang quickly said, "Don't worry. I've left the big ones for you. I'm just warning them." Qi Yuan, he was worried about her, not those things. Am I just a decoration in your eyes? Qi Yuan grabbed Shi Shang's collar and pinned him down. Can't you just tell me and let me help you? You're a treasure in my eyes. Shi Shang blinked and said seriously, treasures need to be protected. I treat you like a treasure and worship you like a god. Qi Yuan, did he reincarnate into the wrong body? He accepted it quite well. What the hell was this? Qi Yuan got down from Shi Shang's body and looked a little unnatural. Are we still going up the mountain? Since we're already here, there's no reason not to go. Shi Shang chuckled. The scenery on the mountain was very beautiful. They could see the snow-covered imperial city and the snow-covered mountain range. It was a magnificent sight. Qi Yuan pulled Shi Shang under his cloak and hugged her gently. I never thought that one day I'd be able to stand next to someone and look at the mountains and rivers. Shi Shang looked up and rested his chin on Qi Yuan's chest. Are you happy? Qi Yuan's eyes drooped as bits of snow fell from his long eyelashes. He lowered his head, pressed his lips together, and gently kissed her. His voice drifted between heaven and earth. You are my tribulation, but I gladly endure it. Chapter 12:10. The Emperor of Qi Yao only doted on the Empress. All the ministers were busy trying to increase the Emperor's harem. In the end, they were either executed or exiled. Gradually, they gave up on this idea. But when the Empress did not get pregnant for a long time, the ministers started to cause trouble again. This time, the Emperor did not have to do anything. The Empress was the first to explode. The ministers in the imperial court changed wave after wave, but the situation in Qi Yao did not change. Many years later, on the official road, a carriage slowly moved towards the northern Liang imperial city. The carriage finally stopped at the Lingguang temple outside the imperial city. A woman came down from inside. She wore a cloak that covered her face. She went to the Lingguang temple alone. The Lingguang temple's little monk blocked her way. Benefactor, the abbot is not seeing any guests today. The woman put her hands together and bowed. I am here to pay respects to an old friend. The little monk returned the bow. Benefactor, who are you paying respects to? The woman was silent for a while. Jingchen. The little monk was surprised. He looked at the woman for a while and chanted Amitabha. So you are an old friend of young Master Jingchen. Benefactor, please follow me. The little monk led the woman to the back of the mountain. As they walked, he said, the abbot will recite scriptures for young Master Jingchen every year at this time. When Benefactor arrives, do not disturb the abbot. At the back of the mountain, the little monk pointed to a bamboo forest in front. Just pass through the bamboo forest. Benefactor, please go ahead. The woman followed the little monk's instructions and passed through the bamboo forest. She saw an open space and a tombstone. Beside the tombstone were 2 praying mats. There was already a person sitting on one of them. It was the abbot of the Lingguang temple. The woman slowly walked closer. The words on the tombstone became clearer. Grave of young Master Jingchen. There were only these words on the tombstone. The woman stood quietly and stared at the tombstone. It was as if she wanted to see something from the words. Miss, Jingchen hopes that you will forget it. Why did you come back? The abbot beside her suddenly spoke. The woman slowly shifted her gaze to the abbot. Her tone did not fluctuate. You know me? The abbot stood up from the praying mat and bowed to the woman. Miss, it is better to let go of the knot in your heart. I will definitely avenge him. The host shook his head and turned to leave the bamboo forest. Lu Ziyan squatted down and reached out to touch the tombstone. She traced the words word by word. I'm the one who should be apologizing. That incident back then was directed at me. You were the victim. But I treated you like that. I'm sorry. Lu Ziyan spoke intermittently for a while. In the end, she took out a dagger and carved a few small words in the corner. After staring at the tombstone for a while, she resolutely left. After she left, the abbot came over from another direction. Looking at the words carved on the tombstone, he sighed and shook his head. In the tomb of Prince Clear Dust, his wife, Lu Ziyan, stood. Chu Luo had been indulging in debauchery all these years. One woman after another entered the residence. Recently, a woman had come to the prince's residence. It was said that Chu Luo doted on her a lot. The people in the residence were extremely envious of this. Lu Ziyan didn't feel anything about it. She looked at the person beside her, and a mocking smile appeared on her face. That face was completely different from before, but there seemed to be some similarities between the differences. She touched the dagger hidden inside and waited for an opportunity to stab the person beside her in the back when he turned around. However, Chu Luo was vigilant. When the dagger stabbed over, she avoided the important parts and the dagger pierced into his shoulder. He rolled off the bed and stared at the person on the bed with a dark gaze. Who are you? Lu Ziyan didn't waste any time. She jumped off the bed and went straight for Chu Luo. The dagger in her hand stabbed at him again. Someone. Chu Luo grabbed Lu Ziyan's hand and shouted outside. King Luo, don't waste your energy. After tonight, the Luo Palace will no longer exist in this world. Chu Luo's expression changed. What do you mean? King Luo, do you really not remember who I am? Lu Ziyan stared into Chu Luo's eyes. Lu Ziyan, Chu Luo said without hesitation. Lu Ziyan sneered. It's rare for you to remember, King Luo. She bent her knee and pushed the King Luo's abdomen. While he was in pain, she stabbed the dagger into his chest. Chu Luo froze on the spot. She grabbed Lu Ziyan's arm. The veins on the back of her hand bulged and her face turned pale. You didn't expect this, did you? Lu Ziyan pried his hand away. Without support, Chu Luo's body fell to the ground. Lu Ziyan looked down at him. I'm here to avenge Jingchen. Although Chu Luo indulged in debauchery, she had been secretly preparing to rebel. He wasn't afraid of the emperor, but of Prince Rong, who had married into the Crimson Glory Empire. Before Prince Rong left, he had made some arrangements. Chu Luo didn't know what these arrangements were. However, the ministers in the court turned a blind eye to his attempts to rope them in. They never dared to have any disloyalty to the emperor, as if they were being controlled by someone. Without full confidence, he knew that he couldn't act rashly. Once the war started, the Crimson Glory Emperor would definitely send troops to help Prince Rong. He only had one chance. After so many years, he finally knew something. Now that Sima Yang had just ascended the throne and the court was in turmoil again, this was his best opportunity. So Chu Luo decided not to wait. However, before he could start, he fell into the hands of a woman. A fire broke out in the Luo Palace, and almost no one in the residence was spared. Chu Luo also died in that fire. Shi Shang returned to the system space after spending the rest of his life with Qi Yuan in this world. She glanced at the space and frowned. She looked in the direction of the screen. The system immediately displayed her information. Name, Shi Shang morality points, minus 390000 health points, 55 points, 76400 mission level, minus mission rating, 0 hidden mission, completed hidden mission reward, 2000 point side mission, failed side mission reward, none item list, Queen's Crown, Ghost King's Heart, Dark Knight, Qilin Blood, Phoenix Tail Feather. Why did my morality points increase? Did she do something good like helping an old granny cross the road? You can think of it as the continuation of the 100-Year Alliance. The 100-Year Alliance benefited the people of the two countries. Compared to what she had done, after offsetting it, there was still a little left. Host, do you need to do a memory check? Shi Shang tilted her head. Why are you suddenly asking this? Are you coveting my memory? You think too much. The system detected that when you came back, your emotions were fluctuating. Does the host need to do a memory check? Shi Shang. Speaking of this, Shi Shang became angry. She pulled out her sword and exploded. Call your master out. I want to duel with him. What does it have to do with my master? Isn't it because of Feng Ci? Bullshasterisk T. Feng Ci won't run away. Why would I be emotional? Her emotions fluctuated greatly because at the last moment, her authority had been revoked again. The system's master had changed again. The system realized in hindsight and suddenly became complacent. Master is not someone you can meet whenever you want. Do you want to enter the next world? Initializing transmission. The system was very smug after regaining its sovereignty. Holy shit. But face, just you wait. I'll make you pay. Asterisk the 35th world ended. There was also Qi Yuan side story 233333. Ha ha ha, this time I filled in the hole. I'm really awesome. Chapter 12:11. In the narrow iron cage, the little boy's clothes were dirty and messy, but he didn't make a sound as he looked at the people in the distance. His face was expressionless, so cold that he didn't seem like a child. In the main hall, a woman was being pressed to the ground. She kept begging the man on the main seat, her posture so humble that it seemed like she was going to sink into the dust. But the man didn't budge. The eunuch standing at the side came forward with a wine cup. The woman shook her head in horror. She broke free from the people and ran towards the iron cage. But before she could reach it, she was pressed to the ground. The eunuch grabbed the woman's chin and poured the liquid in the wine cup into her mouth. As the woman struggled, the wine soaked her clothes. She was in a sorry state. She reached out to the little boy, her eyes full of despair. The eunuchs holding her down released her. The woman struggled to crawl to the side of the cage. She grabbed the cage with a pale face. Blood kept flowing out of the corner of her mouth. She squeezed out a few words with difficulty. Live. Live. Qi Yuan suddenly opened his eyes. His chest rose and fell quickly. His gaze swept across the dark main hall. He reached out to touch the warm body beside him. His nervous nerves gradually relaxed. He leaned over and pulled her into his arms. He urgently searched for her scent, her breath, and everything about her. Shi Shang was in a daze from the kiss. She asked in a muffled voice, "What's wrong?" His response was an even more intense kiss. His actions were a bit rough. Shi Shang was no longer sleepy and was forced to toss in bed with him until dawn. Afterwards, Qi Yuan hugged her to sleep. Perhaps because he was tired, he fell into a deep sleep. He returned to that dream again, but this time, he didn't feel the same as before. He felt a sense of peace. The woman in his dream fell in front of him. Her eyes were wide open. She died with remaining grievances. He saw the woman being dragged away and placed in a strange position in the middle. There were a few people dressed as Jianghu magicians standing around her. They surrounded the woman and muttered something. After the eunuchs and palace maids left, the man also left. He glanced over with a cold gaze. After that, there was a huge fire. An endless fire. He was curled up in the iron cage. The iron chains on his body became hot as the temperature rose. He heard the sound of his skin cracking. He didn't remember how he left. He only remembered that when he woke up, he was already outside the palace. The person who saved him claimed to be his shadow guard. His body was wrapped in bandages, and he could barely walk. During that period of time, he could only spend it in bed. The person who took care of him did not say much. Every day, she changed his dressing and brought him food like a machine. She never told him about the outside world. It wasn't until he got better that someone started teaching him martial arts, studying, and even national affairs. Just like that, he stayed in that place for 5 years. 5 years later, someone from the palace came to take him back to the palace. He was very familiar with the palace, but when he entered the palace, he realized that these people no longer called him the sixth prince, but the third prince. The third prince, who had been praised as a genius since he was young, was the favorite of the emperor, and was intended to be the crown prince. Perhaps they knew that he wouldn't say much. Even in such a situation, his shadow guards didn't tell him in advance. It wasn't until he settled down in the palace that he knew that a year ago, the third prince was suffering from a chronic illness and was sent away for treatment. The third prince had already died. Only then did he have the chance to replace the third prince and enter the palace. But he understood that all of this was arranged by them. His appearance was ruined in that fire, and the third prince's appearance was also ruined because of his illness. There weren't so many coincidences. It was all arranged by them. Why did you do this? For the first time, he took the initiative to ask the person who took care of him. That person was stunned and slowly knelt down. Your Highness, you have a blood feud on your shoulders. Your mission is to take revenge. Where's the third prince? He's dead. How did he die? He died of illness. The shadow guard answered as if he had been trained. He didn't believe it. Since then, he seemed to have fallen into a huge conspiracy. The people around him gradually increased. He had to follow what they said, imitating the third prince's temperament and habits. If he didn't do it well, it would quickly reach the shadow guards. At night, he would be brainwashed by the shadow guards. They would talk about how his mother was framed and how the outsiders were killed. His mother was framed by the third prince's mother. The emperor mistakenly believed the slanderous words of the Taoist priest, saying that his mother was the reincarnation of a fox demon. He would overthrow his dynasty. What the emperor could not tolerate the most was this kind of thing happening. That was why there was that big fire. Even his mother's family was not spared. Their entire family was exterminated. At first, he was very angry, but after hearing more, he wasn't so angry. These people seemed to be deliberately angering him, deliberately planting the seed of hatred in his heart. They wanted to make him a chess piece that they could manipulate. There were people watching him everywhere, so he had to be careful. He didn't know what kind of power was behind these people, but he believed that he would find out sooner or later. Life in the palace was boring, but he was walking on thin ice all day. Every day, he had to deal with those people who were watching him, avoid their surveillance, and build his own power. He didn't want to be controlled by them. He had endured for many years, and finally, there was a coup in Xiqian. The people outside didn't know what happened, but he knew. The people who manipulated him launched the coup that day, but they missed the Shan family. The Shan family was loyal to the royal family. They would be loyal to whoever was the emperor. They also missed him. At that time, he had already used them to build his own power. His mother's death was planned by this group of people. He had found out clearly in the past few years. The coup failed, and everyone present was killed. The emperor thought that he had saved the emperor and pardoned him for the crime of replacing the third prince, but he didn't restore his identity as the sixth prince. For the emperor, the sixth prince was dead and had become a thing of the past. He was still the third prince. After the Xiqian incident, he still couldn't let down his guard. He knew that those people's power hadn't been completely removed. They were hiding, waiting for an opportunity. And in the Xiqian incident, his martial arts were destroyed. From then on, he could only be an ordinary person, or even worse than an ordinary person. Perhaps it was because he was no longer suppressed by martial arts. His inner ruthlessness began to show. Everyone thought that the emperor regretted listening to the slanderous words, so when he was critically ill, the next emperor fell on him. But he knew that wasn't the case. At that time, the emperor wanted to kill him, but he used a trick to prevent him from saying the rest. He only had time to say his name, so the minister next to him wrote his name on the imperial edict. After ascending the throne, he didn't have to be someone else. Those who looked on coldly and didn't help him in the past all deserved to die. And those who were hiding in the dark deserved to die even more. Qi Yuan hugged the person in his arms tightly. Now that everything was settled, he had the best thing in the world. He used all the misfortune in this life in exchange for his luckiest girl. Chi Yuan. Chapter 12:12. Everyone knew that Gu Lan and Yi Chen had an unspeakable relationship. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The ticking sound of the clock kept ringing in Shi Shang's ears. She felt a headache, as if her head had been hit by someone. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Shi Shang found that when she opened her eyes, it was still dark. The bindings on her eyes told her that she was tied up by someone. There was only the ticking sound in her ears. There was no one, and the annoying sound of cicadas could be heard further away. Her body was tied up, so she should be sitting down. It was very hot. She could feel that her body was covered in sweat. It was so hot, and there was the sound of cicadas. It must be the hottest day of summer. There was a faint smell of blood in the hot air. She wondered whose blood it was. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The sound annoyed Shi Shang. She summoned the iron sword and cut the ropes on her body. Without the bindings, she tore off the bindings on her eyes. Her eyes lit up. Perhaps it was because she had not seen light for a long time. Her eyes were stinging. It took her a while to adjust. She was in a small, dirty room with nothing but a window. The window was so high that an adult man had to stand on his toes to reach it. Shi Shang turned her gaze to the ticking sound. It was actually coming from her body. Time bomb. Time left. 20 minutes. Shi Shang, damn, this time I've become a human bomb. Buttface and the Sister Master, those two little bitches, are really powerful. Calm down, there will be a time to kill them. But what was the original owner wearing? She was wearing a small floral skirt covered in mud. She was only wearing a red leather shoe, and the other foot was bare and covered in mud. Shi Shang was silent. Let's deal with the bomb first. How do I defuse the bomb? Shi Shang knew how to defuse all kinds of high-tech things, but this kind of old-fashioned thing, she really didn't know how to defuse it. Well, there was nothing to defuse. It was just 2 strings. If you cut it right, it would live. If you cut it wrong, it would explode. It was simple and crude. But face, which one do you choose? I chose, but you don't believe me. The host never believed in me. What's the use of choosing? I believe you, Shi Shang suddenly said resolutely. This was related to her life. Unless Buttface wanted her to explode back, he wouldn't allow her to explode back. However, according to the system settings, he wouldn't allow her to explode back. Therefore, he would definitely choose the right one. Blue. Without hesitation, Shi Shang ordered the iron sword to cut the blue. The blue line was cut, and the ticking stopped. Shi Shang defused the bomb and opened the window to look outside. It was a very old house, and the tallest one was only 3 stories high. Shi Shang looked at his feet. They were so *king dirty, but there was nowhere to wash them, so he could only endure it. She looked at the closed door and tried to pull it open, but to no avail. At this moment, Shi Shang had a headache. Irritated, he slashed the door with his sword. There was another room on the outside, but it was wider than the inside. There was almost no furniture, only a shabby table. There was also a woman tied up in the middle of the room. She was wearing an army green shirt, the fabric of which was probably the worst. There were pimples everywhere. The woman was unconscious. Her head was lowered, and he couldn't see what she looked like. Shi Shang glanced at the bomb tied to her body. He walked around her, found some water, and washed himself. He took a clean set of sportswear from the space and changed into it. Then he left the room. There was no one guarding here, so Shi Shang left easily. She was now on the 2nd floor. It was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and there was no one around. However, the decorations of the buildings nearby gave Shi Shang a bad feeling. The world she came to was probably in the 70s or 80s. The novels written in this era were either reborn into a military marriage, or the type that transformed into an ugly girl and became rich. Or the type that went back to when they were young, awakened their supernatural abilities, discovered antiques, and reached the peak of their lives. Of course, These were only the two types that were written more often. As for what kind of things they would only know after they received the plot. Shi Shang walked through the alley, ready to find a clean place to receive the plot. Voila! Shi Shang looked at the flower pot in front of him. It almost hit I. How rude. How dare you? You have the guts to hook up with other women outside. Why did you come back to this house? I served you at home, fed you, and gave birth to a son for you. I gave you all of my youth. Now that you have some money, you have a mistress outside. Why are you so loud? Oh, you're so embarrassed. I'm going to let all the neighbors see what kind of person you are. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be where you are today. You ungrateful dog. Voila! A few more flower pots fell. Shi Shang retreated silently. The quarrel upstairs was probably about the mistress getting in the way and being discovered by the legal wife. However, this had nothing to do with her almost being hit. Shi Shang retreated a little. He was about to argue with the two above when he suddenly saw something from the corner of his eye. An old military car was driving in. The car stopped, and a few men in military uniforms got out. They were all tall and had an extraordinary aura. One of them was the most eye-catching. It wasn't because he was handsome, but because he was eye-catching. This was probably the so-called male protagonist's halo. I saw you in the crowd and fell in love with you at first sight. Damn it, if you didn't have the protagonist's halo, you wouldn't be able to see me. Do you think your eyes are X-ray? Do you think they can scan you? Shi Shang calculated the time. It had been about 5 minutes since she came out. She had been delayed for a while, and there were at most 10 minutes left before the explosion. These people were probably here to save her, or that woman. They definitely weren't here to save her. She was just cannon fodder. Shi Shang didn't continue looking. She turned her head and looked up. She shouted at the top of her voice, "The quarreling upstairs, please be careful. You almost hit I. Do you believe that I won't blame you if something happens? I will blame you." Perhaps Shi Shang's last sentence was effective. The quarreling upstairs stopped at the same time. They leaned on the balcony and looked down. Shi Shang saw a young lady dressed in a novel outfit. The fabric of the outfit was better than the ones they had seen in the market. Women were always jealous when they saw someone prettier than them, especially this woman who had just been cheated on. She immediately raised her voice. "It didn't hit me, did it? Why are you shouting?" The man pulled the woman. "What are you doing? Didn't you see what she was wearing? The material of her clothes is obviously from a rich family." "Oh, you're so bad. You've been out for a few days, and you know you can't mess with her just by looking at the material of her clothes. I think you're not looking at her clothes, you're looking inside." The woman became more and more sarcastic. She even attacked Shi Shang. "You want a military marriage? Anyway, I don't know what I wrote. You can just read it. Don't find fault with me. I've never read this kind of novel. If there's anything wrong with it, just treat it as a parallel universe. I made it up. I refuse to find fault with you. I refuse to find fault with you. I refuse to find fault with you." Chapter 12-13. How could Shi Shang, who had a bad temper, hold back? He was the one who was almost hit, okay? He hadn't even gotten angry, and she had already done it. Intolerable. Shi Shang put his hands on his hips and started to rebuke her. "You're in the right to throw things and hit people when you're quarreling. How shameless can you be? If you have the guts to quarrel, why don't you strangle him to death? What's the point of having a man who keeps a mistress?" Why was the host instigating even a passerby now? The woman was stunned for a moment. Then, she slammed her hand on the balcony, and the potted plant on the balcony fell down with a loud crash. The woman pointed at Shi Shang with a ferocious expression. "Good. You're the little vixen, aren't you? You're really something. How dare you come to my house? I'm going to beat you to death today, you vixen." The woman circled the balcony, probably looking for something. Finally, She chose a broom. She held the broom and pointed at Shi Sheng. Little vixen, just you wait. Don't run away. I'm going to beat you to death today. Shi Sheng was speechless. What was she talking about with a retard? Perhaps she was a little retarded because she had just arrived and was not using her own brain. She had to slow down. Shi Sheng patted his head. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw someone looking in their direction. However, it was only a glance before they rushed into the building she had just come out of. At this moment, the woman came downstairs with a broom. She ran towards Shi Sheng and shouted in a high-pitched voice, "You little vixen, who told you to seduce people? Shameless! How dare you steal a man and come to my house?" The woman swung the broom at Shi Sheng as she scolded him. Shi Sheng tilted his body slightly to avoid the broom. He lifted his leg and kicked the woman's calf. While she was staggering, he kicked the broom out of her hand. The woman's calf went numb. She lost her balance and fell to the ground. At this moment, the man rushed downstairs and grabbed the woman's arm. He scolded, "What are you doing? Don't you think you've embarrassed yourself enough? You heartless man. Why is my life so hard? Why are you still speaking up for her? Didn't you see her hit me? You dog. How could I have been so blind to marry you? Everyone, come and take a look. This shameless little vixen is seducing other people's men." The woman did not allow the man to pull her, and directly sat on the ground and began to howl. In this era, it was a big deal for someone to steal a man. Soon, people came out from all around the street and surrounded them. They pointed at the three of them and whispered. Shi Sheng was also sure that these people did not know the host, which proved that the host was not from here. When the woman saw Shi Sheng coming over, she seemed to have regained her confidence. She got up from the ground and pointed at Shi Sheng's nose. "Little vixen, let me, LZ, see what kind of trouble you're going to stir up today." Shi Sheng had seen plenty of unreasonable people. This woman was just a small matter to her. "Fine, you said I seduced your man, right? Then may I ask, did you see it with your own eyes? You think you're in the right when you seduce someone? How can you be so shameless? Did you see it with your own eyes?" Shi Sheng's voice was not loud, but everyone felt as if the heat around them had subsided a little. For some reason, the woman's arrogance was suddenly suppressed. The woman opposite her was too domineering. The woman muttered, "I didn't see it, but someone else did." "Then, are you sure it was me? Are you a deity? Can you predict? Or are you clairvoyant? I walked past your house and was almost smashed. It's fine if you don't apologize, but your slandering eye. Do you think I'm easy to bully?" Shi Sheng was a hooligan. Who dared to compete with him? Everyone looked at the flower pot on the ground and then looked at the young lady's clothes. How could they be interested in the woman's man? Women were famous for being shrewish and difficult to get along with. It was obvious who was right and who was wrong. "Sister Fong Fong, it's not this young lady. The woman I saw had longer hair and wasn't this young." A woman raised her hand and said weakly. The woman's face darkened. "I'm sorry, young lady. It's my husband's fault. I apologize to you. I didn't expect you to walk past me. I'm really sorry. Why aren't you apologizing to her? Don't you feel ashamed?" The man pulled the woman and scolded. "What's there to apologize for? Even if it's not her, you still have a mistress outside. I'm not done with you." The woman pushed the man away rudely and ran upstairs. The sound of the door closing could be heard from afar. "Everyone, run, run." Suddenly, there was a loud shout. "Run. It's going to explode." Explode? When the crowd heard this, they ran forward without a second thought. Shi Sheng also ran forward with them. He took the time to look behind him. Those people were following behind them, and the last man was carrying the woman in military green clothes. Bang! Bang bang! The sound of the explosion rang out several times. There might be explosives in the nearby buildings. In such hot weather, the temperature after the explosion was even higher, causing other places to explode as well. The crowd only stopped when the explosion stopped. Everyone was sweating profusely, but their faces were extremely pale as they looked at the thick smoke and fire behind them. Why would there be an explosion for no reason? When the men in military uniforms approached, the crowd immediately surrounded them, pointing at them and making a big fuss. Shi Shang was standing at the back of the crowd. One of the sharp-eyed soldiers spotted her. His eyes widened before they were filled with pleasant surprise. He broke through the crowd and walked toward Shi Shang. He said excitedly, "Miss Gu, we thought you were taken away. Why are you here? Did you see what the kidnappers looked like?" Shi Shang. So it had something to do with them. Shi Shang did not say anything. What did she say? Should she say that she had defused the bomb and escaped? She did not even know the plot. Why would she say that? That person brought Shi Shang back to where the other soldiers were. It was obvious that the other soldiers didn't like her. In fact, the way they looked at her was a bit strange. The sound of the explosion quickly attracted the attention of the fire department. Shi Shang was pulled into a car by the man. The others did not get into the car. Perhaps because of her special status, the man who pulled her into the car did not sit with her. Instead, he sat in front of her. Her status was high enough. It was good for her to show off. Shi Shang decided to read the plot first. This was indeed a military marriage story. The female lead was called Su Mei. She was reborn into the Su Mei of the 1980s from the 21st century. This Su Mei already had a husband, He Yu. He Yu was a company commander in the army. Before Su Mei was reborn, her original body was a person who was particularly disliked. She was a little fat, liked to take advantage of small things, and was very calculative. At that time, He Yu did not like this daughter-in-law. However, she was married by his family, so he had no choice. He thought that it would be fine as long as he did not go back. Who knew that she would follow him to the military? He was a company commander, so his family could naturally live in the military compound. Since then, He Yu disliked this cheap daughter-in-law even more. When the female lead was reborn, Su Mei and He Yu's relationship had dropped to the freezing point. Chapter 12-14. In the beginning, the female lead also suffered a lot of grievances from He Yu, but she didn't give up. She continued to reform He Yu and began to become rich with her own efforts. Her relationship with He Yu gradually improved. At this time, as the supporting female lead, Gu Lan naturally jumped out to steal the show. Gu Lan, the only daughter of the deputy commander of the military region, was spoiled by her family since childhood. After graduating, she fell in love with He Yu at first sight and kept pestering him. Gu Lan pestered He Yu. The female lead couldn't stand it anymore. She felt that her man was coveted by others and argued with Gu Lan several times. But every time, He Yu coincidentally saw Gu Lan bullying the female lead. Over time, He Yu didn't like Gu Lan very much. And this Shi Shang, the female lead, was fancied by a man because of business. The man pursued her, but the female lead didn't agree. The man was provoked and kidnapped the female lead. You can say that he kidnapped the female lead, but he also kidnapped Gu Lan, who was with the female lead at that time. The man put a bomb on the female lead and Gu Lan, then calculated the time and informed He Yu. He tied up the female lead and Gu Lan separately. Gu Lan fainted. When He Yu went to save her, he put all his attention on the female lead. When he found Gu Lan in the room, there were only 20 seconds left. He gave up Gu Lan and escaped with the female lead. In the end, Gu Lan was killed by the bomb. Because of this incident, He Yu's promotion was affected. But at this time, the female lead's noble people came out to slap the face, so He Yu was promoted in the end. The ending was that the female lead relied on her prophetic ability and became a world-class rich person. The male lead also became a big boss in the military and lived happily together. Gu Lan pestering He Yu was a bit too much, but the female lead always made trouble for Gu Lan and made He Yu hate Gu Lan. In the end, Gu Lan was killed by the bomb. In the plot, the female lead woke up when He Yu started to save her. She clearly had time to tell others that Gu Lan was in the next room, but she didn't. What the F***ck is going to happen? Or was it broken? Whether it was broken or not, Shi Shang didn't care. Anyway, she was determined to break up the couple. Gu Lan only had one last wish. That was to live better than the female lead and make her parents proud of her. This was easy. She just casually took something from the space and sold it. Her net worth was over 100 million. After returning to the military region, Shi Shang was sent to an independent courtyard in the family compound. This was the deputy commander's courtyard. Usually, very few people came here. Shi Shang went to his room according to the memory of the original owner. In this era, even a commander couldn't be rich, let alone a deputy commander. In the plot, the kidnapping of the female lead was not kept a secret. Not long after Shi Shang sat down, a car came to take her to the military area. The family quarters were outside the military zone, separated by a very high wall. The host had been in the military before. As the daughter of the deputy commander, she had this privilege. She followed him to an office with ease. When they walked in, Shi Shang found that both the male and female lead were there, as well as the male lead's friends. The female lead was still pale from the shock. When Shi Shang came in, she glanced at Shi Shang and quickly lowered her head. Mr. Gu was sitting behind his desk. He was a very thin man dressed in casual clothes. He seemed to have just returned from somewhere. He wore glasses and looked solemn. He looked a bit like an old-fashioned math teacher. "Dad." Shi Shang walked to the front and called. Mr. Gu glanced at her and the corners of his mouth twitched. It could barely be regarded as a smile. Then he looked at Yu and said calmly, "What happened today? How did Xiao Lan get involved? Yu, if you don't give me an explanation today, I won't let this go." He only had one precious daughter, but she was kidnapped. He didn't even know before. The soldiers who went to rescue her didn't know that the original owner was kidnapped until later. But Gu Lan was the daughter of the deputy commander. How could this be hidden? When Mr. Gu found out, he even wanted to kill Yu. Fortunately, his daughter was fine. That was why he could sit still. As a soldier, Yu didn't hide anything and reported the whole thing. "Because of a private matter involving my daughter, you made such a big fuss?" Mr. Gu's expression became more serious. "Why didn't you report it?" Yu brought people to rescue the female lead. He didn't even have time to report it. The people who went with him were his more trustworthy subordinates. Yu stood straight like a pine tree. "I was in a hurry and didn't have time. I didn't expect Miss Gu to be kidnapped. Taking people out without permission is against the rules. Yu, you know how serious this matter is. I don't need to say more, right?" "I know." This matter was serious. Mr. Gu had to report it. If he just saved people and didn't cause an explosion, it wouldn't be so serious. "Deputy Commander, I have a few questions. I want to ask Miss Gu." "Can I?" Yu suddenly said. Mr. Gu frowned and looked at Shi Shang. Shi Shang looked at the ground in boredom. She didn't know why they called her here. When she heard Yu's words, she became a little more energetic. Her mind spun quickly and she came to a few conclusions. Shi Shang looked up. "What questions?" Yu glanced at her. The girl in front of him was wearing a very fashionable sportswear. Even though it was a hot day, she looked fresh and fresh. Her hair was casually draped over her shoulders. Her bangs were rolled up and fixed, revealing her smooth forehead. Her face was the size of a palm. Her eyes were bright and her teeth were white. She looked much better than before. Most importantly, her eyes were clear and calm. He didn't dislike her. Yu felt strange but didn't think too much about it. How did Miss Gu escape? Since she was kidnapped with Su Mei, why did she escape? "I don't know. Maybe the kidnappers woke up and suddenly felt that I was innocent. So they let me go. Anyway, when I woke up, I was in the alley nearby." Shi Shang lied through her teeth. There was no one nearby at that time. Even if she said so, no one could prove anything. If no one could prove it, then there was no evidence. You. Shi Shang's expression showed that she was talking nonsense. But he didn't have any evidence now. He didn't need to ask any of the questions he had prepared. Unless he caught the kidnappers. How did she manage to escape? He was pressed for time and didn't have time to see the room. He only saw the bomb on the ground. Mr. Gu sensed that the atmosphere was a little strange. He said seriously, do you have any more questions? His daughter couldn't be bullied. No. Mr. Gu waved his hand. Go back first and wait for the follow-up. He glanced at Shi Shang again. After a collective salute, he left the office with Su Mei. Su Mei stole a glance at Shi Shang. When she saw that he was looking at her, she immediately looked away and left with Hiyu. Chapter 12-15. Xiaolan, let me take a look at you. Are you hurt? After Hiyu and the others left, Mr. Gu immediately became a loving father. How did you get kidnapped? Seriously, I told you not to pester Hiyu. He's already married, but you didn't listen. What's so good about him? There are so many people in the military who are better than him. Why are you so stubborn? Hiyu had military merits. Although he would be promoted sooner or later, the key was that he had a girlfriend. If she liked a married man, wouldn't she be destroying his family? That's because she's young and immature. Shi Shang quickly comforted Mr. Gu. Damn, these fathers like to change their expressions like the male lead. In front of outsiders, they were as stiff as statues, but in front of their daughter, they became chatterboxes. However, the host did do something wrong. There was a saying that there was no corner that couldn't be dug, only a hoe that didn't work hard. But he was already married. That was wrong. There were so many crooked trees in the world. Why did she have to hang on to one? I've thought it through. I don't like him anymore. Mr. Gu was in disbelief. He reached out to touch Shi Shang's head. You don't have a fever. Are you scared out of your wits? Shi Shang. Was he really her biological father? Really, I don't like him anymore. Who would dare to like the male lead? She wanted to live for a few more days. The female lead was so cruel when she became evil. She was scared. Mr. Gu was suspicious. Really? He knew how much his daughter liked Hiyu. He couldn't stop her. Shi Shang nodded. Would he be able to take my liking to him? It's good that you've thought it through. I'm afraid that you'll be stubborn for the rest of your life. Mr. Gu heaved a sigh of relief. I've raised my daughter for so many years. I don't want to spoil her. Shi Shang. The host must have been adopted. Mr. Gu coughed. Tell me, who rescued you? Don't fool I. You're not as easy to fool as Hiyu. Mr. Gu was able to become a deputy commander. He was a good judge of character. Shi Shang rolled his eyes. Would you believe me if I told you that I suddenly awakened my special ability and ran out on my own? Mr. Gu glared at him. Stop fooling around. Who saved you? Shi Shang was speechless. Who would save me? No one would save a cannon fodder like me who wouldn't even last 3 episodes. I ran out on my own. Where do you want me to find a savior for you now? Shi Shang had a serious look on his face. I really awakened my special ability all of a sudden. I broke free from the rope, cut the thread, and ran out. The words "I don't believe you" were written all over Father Gu's face. Shi Shang insisted that he had awakened his supernatural ability, but Mr. Gu refused to believe him. Neither side relented. In the end, Gu Nianji's mother called to ask why they were not back for dinner. Don't tell your mother about this. She has a weak heart, Mr. Gu reminded Shi Shang. Shi Shang nodded, indicating that he understood. Mr. Gu felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't figure out what it was. When he went to bed that night, Mr. Gu realized that his daughter was not afraid at all. Being kidnapped was such a big deal. If it was in the past, she would have rushed over and cried. Why was she so calm this time? The more he thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. Mr. Gu got out of bed and wanted to find Shi Sheng, but the person beside him moved. Mr. Gu was afraid of disturbing him, so he suppressed the doubts in his heart and prepared to ask about it tomorrow. The military had punished Yu. This time, Shi Sheng was fine, so Mr. Gu didn't interfere. He just announced the punishment that was given by the higher-ups. Of course, his daughter was kidnapped because of Su Mei, so Mr. Gu didn't give him any face. Although Yu was the male lead, he wasn't tall, rich, or handsome, nor was he the son of an official. But his punishment was only a deduction of his salary and a self-reflection. Shi Sheng didn't believe that the female lead wasn't involved. Xiaolan, come out and eat watermelon. Okay, Shi Sheng responded and went out of the room. At this time, Mr. Gu wasn't home. Only Mrs. Gu and her were at home. Mrs. Gu was a very gentle woman. She spoke softly and always had a smile on her face. She used to be a teacher in a middle school. Because of her poor health, Mr. Gu didn't allow her to go. There were no refrigerators in this era. Ordinary people couldn't afford to use them. So the watermelon was just soaked in water and didn't taste good. Shi Sheng didn't say anything and silently finished the watermelon. Mom, I'm going out. Mrs. Gu was cleaning up in the kitchen. When she heard Shi Sheng's voice, she poked her head out. The sun is so hot. Where are you going? I'm going out for a walk. You're so wild. Come back early. Her child was at the age where she liked to play. Mrs. Gu didn't stop her. She reminded her and gave her some money. It wasn't much, only 5 yuan. However, this amount of money was definitely a lot in this era. Shi Sheng went out of the courtyard. She had to pass by the military family compound in front. When she went over, there were a few women sitting under a big tree in the courtyard. Some words floated out from inside. They seemed to be talking about Su Mei. Their tone was full of jealousy. It definitely wasn't anything good. Gossiping behind people's backs. Aren't you afraid that the King of Hell will pull out your tongues? A woman suddenly scolded. Oh, Mrs. Li, how many things did that little girl give you? Why are you speaking up for her? Mrs. Li, you follow that little girl all day. People who don't know this will think that you're her servant. Several women joined forces to criticize that woman. In the end, it developed into a fight. Shi Sheng was watching with enthusiasm. Suddenly, a person ran from behind her in a hurry. He ran past her with a gust of hot wind. Su Mei just came back from outside. Seeing the fight in the courtyard, she immediately went forward to stop it. Shi Sheng found a cool place to squat and watch the fight. She took out a fruit from her space. In this weather, eating melon seeds was a bit heaty. The fight over there was very heated. The female lead tried to calm them down, but it didn't work. Not only did the two sides not stop fighting, but the female lead also suffered. Most of these women came from the countryside, so when they got into a fight, they could spew out all sorts of profanities. If it were a young lady, her face would have turned red. Yet Shi Sheng's expression didn't change at all. She even seemed to be interested in what was going on. Is it fun? Suddenly, there was a cool breeze behind her. Shi Sheng turned around abruptly. She didn't know when a man was standing behind her. The tree trunk blocked half of his body. Shi Sheng. Where did this person come from? It was impossible to be in front, left, or right. Behind them was the wall of the military compound that separated military families. Shi Sheng looked at him again. He wasn't wearing a military uniform. He was wearing a white short-sleeved shirt, a pair of knee-length pants, and slippers. His hair was a bit long. It was a bit too long for people in the district who had buzz cuts. There was an unlit cigarette in his mouth. He narrowed his eyes and looked at Shi Sheng. He was a bit frivolous. He didn't look like a decent person. This was Shi Sheng's first reaction. Friendly reminder. The era is nonsense. It's a parallel universe. Don't worry about it. It can be brought into the 1980s. But the reality is definitely different. I'm not from the 1980s. I don't understand that era. It's pure nonsense. Don't take it seriously. Chapter 12:16. Do I look good? He took the cigarette down and asked again. His voice was a little low and hoarse. The last word sounded sexy, as if he had rolled it with the tip of his tongue. He had a bit of a ruffian aura mixed with a bit of darkness. When people were attracted by his appearance, they would fall into his trap. Shi Shang threw away the fruit in his hand and stood up from the ground. He raised his chin slightly. What do you mean? The man's lips curled up and he seemed to be very happy. What do you think? The first sentence he said was about the fight. The second sentence was about whether he looked good or not. Hidden mission, sharp blade soldier target. Yi Chen mission, assist Yi Chen in training qualified special forces. Shi Shang was speechless. Yi Chen noticed that the girl's expression changed from fearless to strange. However, other than this, he could not see any other emotions on her face. Shi Shang said after a while, "You look good." "I don't think you're complimenting me." Yi Chen chuckled. "Little girl, do you always grit your teeth when you lie?" It was as if she wanted to kill him. "I never compliment people." Shi Shang returned to normal and sneered. "You're the first. Be content." Yi Chen looked at Shi Shang's change in expression and found it very interesting. "Then I'm honored. I hope the little girl doesn't fall for me." Yi Chen turned and walked out. His voice traveled through the hot air and landed in Shi Shang's ears. What kind of character did Feng Ci have this time? Shi Shang looked at the female lead who was about to finish her fight and then looked at the mission target who was leaving casually. In the end, he chose Yi Chen. The military area was built in a no-man's land. There was a corn field outside. At this time, the corn was just ripe and there were farmers breaking the corn in the field. Because of the military area, there was a road built here and it was naturally open to traffic. Yi Chen did not seem to notice that there was a tail following behind him. He walked to the bus stop and waited for the bus. He looked very lazy. If it were not for the fact that he came out of the military region, no one would have thought that he was a soldier. Shi Shang walked to his side naturally. Yi Chen glanced at her. "Little girl, it's not good to run out alone." Shi Shang tilted his head and looked at him. "Don't I still have you?" Yi Chen raised his eyebrows. "Me? Do I look like a good person to you?" "No." This man was quite good-looking, but he really didn't look like a good person. The roar of the car gradually got closer and gradually came to a stop. Yi Chen walked towards the car door. "Go back, little girl. The world is a mess." Shi Shang caught up with him in a few steps. "If you don't take me with you, I'll tell my dad that you snuck out of the military base." Yi Chen already had one foot in the car. He held the car door and tilted his head. "Who's your father?" "Deputy Commander Gu." Yi Chen's expression changed. He turned around and got into the car. Suddenly, he bent down and said, "Get in." Yi Chen walked to the last seat and sat by the window. Shi Shang had no choice but to sit in front of him. He didn't say a word to Shi Shang during the whole journey. The country road was full of potholes, and the car was shaking violently. Shi Shang felt that the car was comparable to the ancient horse carriages. The car was going to the county town, but Yi Chen got off when they were 2 miles away from the county town. Shi Shang thought that Yi Chen did it on purpose, so he didn't follow him. He sat in the car and looked at Yi Chen's slightly stunned expression. He sneered and pointed his middle finger at him. "You can walk by yourself. I don't want to play with you." The car stopped at the county town. This county town was the place where Shi Shang woke up. Because of the military base, the county town was considered to be better off compared to other places. Shi Shang walked around the streets and didn't see any high-tech products. This world was really hopeless. Forget about computers. Even if there was one, there was no internet. Shi Shang walked around the streets and bought a popsicle. He sat by the roadside and ate it. This life was really hopeless. Can there be a time machine and rewind the plot 20 years? Even if the female lead is the richest person in the world, I can totally destroy her. Don't be a coward. Kong Meng Ong. Is the host sick from the heat? Butt face, don't provoke me. I'm very irritable now. I'll explode on the spot. Fine, I won't provoke you. Who cares? Butt face went offline proudly. He was now a system with authority. After eating the popsicle, Sheng barely understood the situation of this world. She still felt that selling things was reliable. Getting rich was too tiring. But this small county town wanted to sell things. What kind of joke was this? So she had to go to a big city. The original owner had been to a big city before. The original owner was studying abroad and had just graduated this year. She hadn't found a job yet. She heard that Father Gu was trying to find a way to let her join the army. She didn't graduate from a military school, so why would she join the army? Wait a minute. It seemed that the hidden mission was to help that idiot train a special forces team. Butt face, how old is Yi Chen? He looks to be in his mid-20s. He can be an instructor at such a young age? That's not how you cheat. He has a strong background. Shang. I actually have no words to refute. So what if he has a strong background? Shang returned to the main topic. How to get to a big city was a problem. Should she fly there? This was a good idea, but it would take some time to sell things. She had to find an excuse to coax Father Gu and Mother Gu. Shang wandered aimlessly on the street for a while. Her eyes casually swept through the crowd on the street. Every era had its own characteristics. Hey little girl, are you alone? Do you want to go over there with your brothers to have some fun? A few youths surrounded Sheng. Their faces were filled with lewd smiles as their gazes swept over her chest with malicious intent. Sheng was wearing a one-piece dress. Fortunately, it was more conservative and didn't reveal anything that shouldn't be exposed. She met the gaze of one of the young men, and the corners of her mouth curled up into a strange sneer. Lei, what kind of fun? Oh, little beauty, you're so sensible. Come, brother will take you over there to talk. The young man pointed to an alley. Don't do that. Let's have fun here. I was being flirted with. Where was I's sword? The young man could hear the gloominess in Shang's voice. He suddenly felt a little scared on such a hot day. He glanced around. There were few people here. Everyone was doing their own things and didn't pay much attention to them. She was just a little girl. He didn't believe that she could do anything. The young man became bolder and winked at the people next to him. It was obvious that it wasn't the first time these people had done this kind of thing. They already had a tacit understanding. However, before they could make a move, the little girl made a move first. The young man standing closest to her was the first to suffer. He screamed and squatted down holding his crotch. Although it was a little dirty to kick someone's groin, this method was the most effective. So, it didn't matter if it was dirty or not, as long as it worked. * more chapters. # 4,000 monthly votes. Chapter 12-17. These young men used to be hooligans in town. Everyone disliked them, but there was nothing they could do about it and could only avoid them. But now, a young lady had knocked down a few of them alone. The surrounding crowd had no choice but to come and watch the show. Do you still want Lei? Shang stood in front of the young man who said he wanted Lei. No, we were wrong. We were possessed and offended Mississippi. We're sorry. The young man apologized with a swollen face. Was she really a girl? She chose to hit the most painful part and even hit the face. This kind of person had to be arrested. It would be a disaster if he was released. So, Sheng asked someone to find the police. The young man relaxed when he heard that the police were going to find him. After all, he had someone backing him. But before he could feel happy, he realized that the police officers were even more respectful to Sheng. Only then did they realize that they had kicked an iron plate. Shi Shang came out of the police station and saw Yi Chen leaning against the door of the police station. He raised his eyebrows at Shi Shang meaningfully. Under the sunlight, his face seemed to be plated with gold. "Little girl, you're bringing trouble to your father by using his identity." Shi Shang pursed his lips and said calmly, "I was bullied. What's wrong with me telling you which family I'm from?" Moreover, the police officers were the ones who asked. What did it have to do with her? Yi Chen chuckled and suddenly moved closer to her. "You were exposed just now." Shi Shang's expression did not change. "Underwear. Idiot." Yi Chen was speechless. Why was this little girl so calm? He thought about how fierce she was just now. It seemed normal for her to be so calm. Shi Shang walked past him. Yi Chen watched Shi Shang leave. He took out a cigarette and held it in his mouth. The corner of his lips curled up habitually. He then turned and left in the opposite direction of Shi Shang. "Hey!" Yi Chen turned around. The girl who left just now was walking toward him quickly. Her face was expressionless and her eyes were as cold as a 1,000-year-old lake. "Little girl, what are you doing?" Yi Chen turned around and asked her with a smile. Shi Shang looked at him in confusion. "What do you mean? Didn't you call me just now?" The corners of Shi Shang's mouth twitched. He pointed at the girl behind her and said, "She's calling you." The little girl was already in front of him. She was panting as she handed over an army green bag. Her face was slightly red. "You left this behind." A trace of doubt flashed across Yi Chen's eyes, but he quickly reached out to take the bag. "Thank you." The little girl had probably never seen such a good-looking person before. Her face flushed red and she waved her hand. "No need to thank me." Then he fled. Yi Chen carried his bag and squinted at Shi Shang. "Didn't you go that way just now? Why are you following me now? Are you interested in me?" Shi Shang was speechless. "Come on, let's fight." Even if it was Feng Ci, he was asking for a beating. He had to find a secluded place to put a gunny sack over him and beat him up. Yi Chen probably sensed the faint murderous aura emanating from Shi Shang, so he restrained his frivolous expression. "I'm just joking. Little girl, don't be so nervous. Hurry up and go back. Don't follow me anymore." Shi Shang rolled his eyes at Yi Chen. "Take the car and go that way." "Are you out of your mind?" Yi Chen laughed. "Little girl, can you speak without being sarcastic?" It was simply infuriating to talk to her. If her words were not sarcastic, her tone would be sarcastic. If her tone was not sarcastic, her words would be sarcastic. Yet he was still arrogant and conceited, thinking that he was the only one in the world. He had seen many people like her, but those people were just for show. They were nothing without their families. "Only this little girl," Shi Shang said calmly. "If you think that others are sarcastic, it's because you already have a conclusion in your heart. No matter what others say, you'll think that they're targeting you. Why do the same words have different meanings in different people's ears? Because your relationship with others is different, the meaning you hear is also different. Perhaps the other person was just joking, but you have a prejudice against the other person. When you hear it, you feel that the other person is showing off or mocking you. As a person, you must first correct your own attitude. You don't need others to have a conscience. You only need to have a clear conscience." "How old are you? Why do you act like an old man?" Ideological awareness is related to experience, but it has nothing to do with age. Shi Shang paused and did not continue. He did not want to feed her this kind of chicken soup. Yi Chen smiled ambiguously. "Hurry up and go back. There won't be any more buses if you're late." Shi Shang's gaze paused on the bag in his hand for a few seconds and brushed past him. Shi Shang did not go back immediately. Instead, he went to buy a map. When she was done, she caught the last bus. At this time, there were factory workers who had just gotten off work. The bus was very crowded and full of people on a hot day. It was obvious how touching the smell was. Shi Shang got off the bus after one stop. It was better to fly back by herself. Shi Shang returned to the military family compound just in time for dinner. If you didn't come back, I would have asked your father to look for you. Mrs. Gu glared at Shi Shang. Go wash your hands. I'll send the food to your father after dinner. You're exaggerating. I'm an adult. How can I get lost? Shi Shang said as he walked to the toilet. You won't get lost, but if you were kidnapped, where would your mother find you? Shi Shang poked his head out of the toilet. There are human traffickers? Yes. I heard from your father that a few young girls have gone missing recently. They probably met with human traffickers. The world is chaotic now. Don't go out and run around. It's worrying. Shi Shang came out with his hands full of water. In this era, human traffickers were indeed prevalent. The laws and whatnot had not been perfected yet. Moreover, there were very few roads between the county and the village. If she was really kidnapped, who would be able to find her in a small village? Mrs. Gu nagged for a long time at the dining table. When Shi Shang finished his meal, she urged him to send food to Mr. Gu. After all, he was the deputy commander. He had the privilege of sending food to his family. The military compound was separated from the military compound by a wall. However, the gate was open for people from the military compound to enter and exit. The guards at the gate all knew her. After a simple registration, they let her in. At this time, a group of people was still running on the field. It was said that they were new recruits. They were punished because they did not finish their training in time. Shi Shang went around the field and went to Mr. Gu's office building. There were sentries guarding the building. Shi Shang needed someone to lead him in. As soon as she went upstairs, she saw two people standing at the door of Mr. Gu's office. Did you find her? No. She disappeared in the afternoon. Should we report this? Report what? Hide it. That's not good. The person who was talking suddenly saw Shi Shang coming up with the sentries. He stopped talking. Hey, Xiaolon is here. Uncle Zhao. Shi Shang greeted him obediently. This was the chief of staff of the military region. He had a good relationship with Mr. Gu. Okay. Old Gu, you eat first. I'll send someone to look for her. If there's no news before 8 o'clock, I'll report it. Chapter 12:18. Dad, are you looking for him? Shi Shang walked into the office with his stuff. Mr. Gu sighed. He's a troublemaker sent by the higher-ups. He arrived a few days ago but ran away as soon as he arrived. It's good that nothing happened. Forget it. You won't understand anyway. What are we eating today? These were all work-related matters. This was his daughter. He only complained a little, but he didn't get to the point. Shi Shang didn't continue asking. Braised pork. Mom is biased. She saved a lot of meat for you. There's meat. Mr. Gu laughed. No wonder I could smell it from afar. Your mom cares about me, unlike you. You only know how to make trouble for me. Shi Shang. She had no choice but to take the blame for the original owner of this body. The living conditions were tough. Even Mr. Gu could only eat meat twice a week. The rest of the time, he only ate vegetables. Before Mr. Gu finished his meal, He suddenly came in. What's the matter? Mr. Gu pushed the lunchbox away and sat up straight. He instantly regained his authority as a senior officer. Came in from outside. Sir, we worked with the town's police to catch the kidnapper. He has confessed. Mr. Gu nodded. It's good that it's over. Don't be so impulsive. The punishment this time wasn't heavy, but it won't be so easy next time. To put it more seriously, it will affect your advancement. The kidnapper also told us something related to Miss Gu. He glanced at Shi Shang, who was standing by the window. Mr. Gu frowned. Speak. He looked straight ahead. Miss Gu said that the kidnapper let her go. But the kidnapper said that he didn't let Miss Gu go. I'm curious. How did Miss Gu leave? Did I say that the kidnapper let me go? Shi Shang looked at He Yu, amused. He Yu's face was cold. The chief can testify. Shi Shang sneered. What I meant was, maybe I don't need to explain what it means. I was unconscious at that time. How would I know who let me go? She didn't make the final decision. Xiaolon did say that. Mr. Gu agreed with Shi Sheng. A few days ago, he didn't manage to get anything out of her. He even had a long talk with her about her sudden boldness. Shi Shang's excuse was that he would be bullied if he was too timid to study outside. Moreover, she rarely went home when she was studying abroad. It was said that girls changed 18 times between childhood and womanhood, so wasn't it normal for her to change? Mr. Gu was stunned by Shi Shang's bullshit excuse. In the end, he could only half believe it. He Yu was speechless, but from his expression, it was obvious that he suspected that the Shi Shang had colluded with the criminals. His imagination was on point. If she had come earlier, she would have colluded with the criminal and killed the female lead first. If there's nothing else, you can leave. Mr. Gu waved his hand, and his expression was obviously a little impatient. This matter was related to his daughter. Of course, he had to protect his precious daughter. He Yu left unwillingly. Shi Shang was interrogated by Mr. Gu again in the office. In the end, Shi Shang was able to talk her way out of it. She hurriedly left the office. When she went downstairs, she saw He Yu waiting outside. He Yu went up to her and asked, "Gulan, did you do it?" This matter was very strange. They were arrested together. Why was she the only one who escaped? Shi Shang's eyes were cold. He Yu, Sergeant He, you have to have evidence before you speak. What evidence do you have to prove that I did it? Then you have to explain clearly. Why were you released after being kidnapped? He couldn't figure out this suspicious point. You're unhappy that I'm not dead, right? Why don't you kill me now? Shi Shang raised his chin arrogantly. He Yu. In the past, she would always pester him when she saw him. But these 2 times, He Yu's face was cold. Miss Gu, justice has a long arm. I will not let any criminal off. Oh, then all the best. Damn it, there are always idiots who want to harm me. Shi Shang came out of the military area. When he passed by the courtyard where the female lead lived, the female lead was talking to the woman from before. Seeing her come over, Su Mei immediately greeted her with a face full of concern. Miss Gu, are you okay after what happened last time? Sigh, I'm lucky that you didn't come up to me. Please don't come to me to seek death. Look for trouble, okay? Let this Bao Bao act cool in peace. Shi Shang took a deep breath. Thanks to you, I was almost scared to death. Su Mei didn't expect Shi Shang to say this. She was embarrassed, but quickly apologized. I'm sorry, Miss Gu. It's all my fault. Not many people knew about Su Mei's kidnapping. This matter was related to the commander of the military area and the beloved daughter of the deputy commander. Who would dare to publicize it? Miss Gu, please wait. I'll get you some fruits to calm you down. Su Mei didn't wait for Shi Shang's rebuttal and turned to go upstairs. She quickly came down with a bag of fruits. The military area was too remote. Usually, people who wanted to eat fruits had to go to the county. Good fruits were not cheap. Su Mei came down with a bag of apples. The apples were very big and didn't look cheap. Shi Shang didn't plan to wait for her. He had already walked some distance away, but Su Mei still caught up with him. Su Mei stopped him and handed him the bag. She said sincerely, Miss Gu, this is for you to calm down. I didn't expect him to be so bold as to kidnap you. I'm really sorry. Su Mei bowed as she spoke. Before Shi Shang could react, he suddenly felt a disgusted gaze staring at him from behind. He subconsciously took a step to the side. At this moment, the bag in Su Mei's hand suddenly broke. The apples inside fell out and rolled far away. The people standing behind looked as if Shi Shang did it on purpose. Miss Gu. He walked a few steps to Su Mei. You don't have to go overboard even if you look down on our fruits. Didn't your family teach you to respect people? Shi Shang. This kind of coincidence, I'm convinced. And the male lead, based on your tone, if it were a female supporting character, she would make things difficult for you. F***CKU. Where's I's sword? Yes, other people make things difficult for you, but you want to draw your sword directly. Shi Shang's expression turned fierce. If you continue to spout nonsense, I will kill you. Ask your wife what happened just now. Shi Shang's sudden fierceness not only shocked Yu, but also Su Mei. Of course, she wasn't scared, she was just surprised. She looked at Shi Shang suspiciously, tugged at Yu's sleeve, and explained, Yu, the bag suddenly broke. It has nothing to do with Miss Gu. I want to apologize to Miss Gu for what happened last time. I implicated her. Yu frowned. Why are you apologizing to her? This matter hasn't been investigated yet. Don't you think so, Miss Gu? You don't feel good if you don't put the blame on I, do you? I have a bad temper. Do you believe that I will make you a cuckold? Shi Shang looked around. The sky was already dark and there wasn't anyone around. The person who spoke to Su Mei just now had also gone in. They were outside the military zone. It shouldn't be a problem to fight, right? There was nothing to be afraid of. At most, they could destroy the entire military zone. Shi Shang cracked her wrist and smiled sinisterly. Company Commander He, I want to spar with you. Chapter 12:19. On the train, all the special class tickets were sold out, so Shi Shang had to buy a first-class seat. As soon as she got on the train, she covered her head and fell asleep. While she was in a daze, a shout came from the end of the carriage. Catch him! He's a thief! Shi Shang was startled by the shout and looked up in the direction of the voice. A man in black was running over, followed by a young man. The young man should be the one who shouted to catch the thief. Ha! Shi Shang turned to the side, not intending to pay attention to these people. When the man was about to reach her, another man suddenly stood out and kicked the man in the back. The man staggered and fell in front of Shi Shang. Someone in front of him stood up and blocked the way. Seeing that there was no way to escape, the man became anxious and pulled up a woman sitting opposite Shi Shang. A knife appeared in his hand and he put it on the woman's neck. Don't come over, or I'll kill her. The people who had been watching the show became nervous. This was a human life. Shi Shang was right beside the man and could see the woman's expression. She didn't panic and just tried to cooperate with the thief so that he wouldn't hurt her. It seemed that she was a person who was often held hostage. Don't come over, don't come over. Let her go. Stealing is a small matter, but killing is another matter, the man who kicked the woman said in a low voice. Shi Shang glanced at him. He was a burly man with a buzz cut, a square face, and a scar on the tip of his eyebrow. His body was standing straight. Although he was wearing ordinary clothes, he was wearing a pair of military boots. He was a soldier. I don't want to do this, but I have no choice. Let me go. I promise I won't hurt her. Let me get off the train, the thief shouted. Okay, but there's still some distance to the next stop. Don't be agitated. We'll let you go. For the safety of the hostage, the man with a square face comforted the thief. Really? As long as you don't hurt anyone. Really? The man with a square face nodded. The thief probably knew that it was impossible to stop the train now, so he didn't refute the man. The man with a square face kept talking to the thief to lower his guard. The thief spoke intermittently about his experience. His hometown had been hit by a flood, and his whole family had died. He was starving, and that was why he became a thief. This was his second time working, but he didn't expect to be discovered. In this world, you can't write off what you've done just by acting pitiful. There are plenty of people who are more pitiful than you, but more hard-working than you. Going the wrong way is going the wrong way. The square-faced man probably saw that it was about time. He gave the person behind the thief a look, and the person behind him carefully approached the thief. At this time, the thief probably saw the reaction of the other passengers and guessed something. He pulled the woman and turned around. The knife accidentally cut the woman's neck and blood splattered. The warm liquid dripped onto Shishang's face, and the smell of blood assaulted his nose. Shishang's body paused for a second. She raised her hand to wipe her cheeks before standing up. The thief was standing with his back to her, so naturally, he couldn't see her. But the square-faced man and the others could see it. Shishang turned his head. Under the astonished gazes of the square-faced man and the others, he suddenly reached out and grabbed the thief's hand. He twisted it to the back, and the woman escaped from his grip. Shishang pushed the woman, and the woman fell to the opposite seat. The men on the other side reacted quickly and moved the woman to the back to stop the bleeding. Shishang threw the thief to the ground and put his hands behind his back. She looked up at the square-faced man, who was still in a daze. "What are you waiting for? Do you want me to help you take him to the police station?" The square-faced man came back to his senses and went forward to grab the thief. After a long commotion, the car finally quieted down. Shishang had already sat back down and looked out of the window with a cold expression. The other passengers looked at her carefully. This young lady was so arrogant just now. The square-faced man finished talking to the police and sat down opposite Shishang. "Young lady, thank you." Shishang turned his gaze back. Under the square-faced man's gaze, he said indifferently, "The blood splashed on me." The square-faced man. "You don't care if the blood didn't splash on you?" The square-faced man recalled the scene just now. He didn't see her reaction when the thief came over. But when the thief kidnapped her, she just sat there and didn't move at all. He thought she was scared. In the end, it was this young lady who saved the man. "Young lady, you were so cool just now. You must have practiced it before." A slightly younger man leaned on the seat behind the square-faced man. He grinned, revealing 2 cute little canine teeth. Shishang ignored him. "Mommy said not to talk to strangers." Canine teeth didn't feel awkward at all. He said like a chatterbox, "If it wasn't for you, who knows what would have happened. There aren't many girls who are as brave as you. I have a younger sister who is about the same age as you. If she encountered such a thing, she would have been scared to tears." "Shishang," the square-faced man scolded. Shishang pursed his lips. "Big brother, you can speak freely. Why are you interfering?" The square-faced man glared at him. Shishang scratched his head and shrank back. The square-faced man thanked Shishang again and returned to his seat. When they were about to get out of the car, the woman who was kidnapped came to thank Shishang. "I didn't mean to save you. He violated my taboo." Shishang didn't mince his words. "So you don't have to thank me. You're just lucky." The woman was stunned. The young lady in front of her was expressionless. Her eyes were calm, as if she didn't care about anything. The woman's thoughts spun, but in the end, she bowed. "Anyway, thank you. My name is Huang Mailan. If you have any trouble in the future, you can find me at Dongfeng Department Store." Shishang glanced at her. "Dongfeng Department Store?" The woman nodded slightly. "As long as there's a Dongfeng Department Store, you can find me at any place with my name." Shishang smiled. "Maybe we will become enemies." The woman looked at Shishang in confusion. "Miss, what do you mean?" "Nothing. You will understand in the future." Huang Mailan, one of the female lead's benefactors. At this time, she should be able to meet the female lead this time. If she had known that she was the female lead's benefactor, she would have waited until she died. What a loss. We are about to arrive at Luoyang Station. Passengers who need to get out of the car, please get ready. The announcer began to announce the station. Shishang stood up from his seat and brushed past Huang Mailan. Huang Mailan also got out of the car at Luoyang Station. Naturally, she followed behind Shishang. She could tell that Shishang didn't want to talk to her, so she tactfully didn't approach him. The square-faced man and Xiao Shang with canine teeth also got out of the car here, so the group of people stood at the entrance. Huang Mailan took the opportunity to solemnly thank the square-faced man and the others. The female lead's golden finger should be left to the female lead. I, Shi Shang, don't need it. That's how awesome I am. That's how willful I am. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.